From a rain-swept Los Angeles Coliseum, it's the Rams against the Minnesota Vikings, featuring two 1,000-yard rushers. Lawrence McCutcheon of the Rams on the right against Chuck Foreman of the Vikings on the left. At stake, a spot against Dallas in the NFC Championship.
The NFL Today is sponsored by Cotton Incorporated, the fiber company of American cotton producers. Light beer, everything you always wanted in a beer and less. And by Ford and your Ford dealer, who invite you to see their better ideas for 78, including Fairmont, the Ford in your future. Now from the CBS Control in New York, here is Brent Musburger.
Welcome back, everyone. It's the Rams and the Vikings coming up momentarily on CBS. But first, let's go back and set the scene. The first game in the playoffs, Saturday afternoon in Baltimore. It was the Oakland Raiders and the Baltimore Colts. It was the second sudden death overtime. It was Ken Stabler shocking Baltimore with a pass called by John Madden, hitting Dave Casper, and the Raiders advance.
Brent, then in Denver, the Broncos led 27-21 after Tom Jackson's second interception late in the fourth quarter. It's now 2nd and 11 at the Steeler 34, and they expect Craig Morton to try to run out the clock, but instead he throws deep in the left corner of the end zone to Jack Dolbin, and a 34-21 Denver victory.
And just this afternoon in Dallas, right here on CBS, it was early in the third quarter and Dallas led 17-zip. The Bears still had hopes, but TD Tony Dorsett dashed those hopes with his 22-yard runoff tackle for a touchdown, which gave him 2 TDs, 17 carries, 85 yards, leading the Cowboys to a 37-7 triumph over the Chicago Bears.
And Phyllis, what that means is that next Sunday at 2 p.m. it will be Oakland and Denver for the AFC Championship game. And at halftime of Los Angeles, Minnesota, we'll bring in our wizard, Jimmy the Greek, to analyze that game for us.
Well, Brent, you're going to have to wait until halftime because I sent my two sons, Anthony and Jamie, to Mount Olympus to talk to a friend of mine about Denver.
And how long will that take, James?
Right now, let's go out to the Los Angeles Coliseum. It is Vin Scully with Alex Hawkins. Vin?
Thank you, Brad. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Los Angeles. For 2 years here, the subject has been the drought and the fear of. However, today there is no drought. If anything, we are somewhat at sea under a strong rain. The weatherman says it's going to continue throughout the day. 3 times the Rams and Minnesota met in playoffs. Each time Minnesota won at home, and each time the people in Los Angeles, Alex, kept saying, well, it was Viking weather, it was too cold. This year, the Rams said, we finally get Minnesota in our town, and it comes up raining.
They brought their weather with them from Minnesota. They're used to playing this.
In fact, didn't they have some strange weather in Tucson?
Yeah, even when they went to Tucson to train, which they've been a week, it rained 3 days in practice there. I know it'll help them today, though.
The condition of the field is very important. We should point out that there was a high school game played here last Saturday night in the rain. And you can see the reflection of the lights on the puddles right in the middle of the field. So that even though it had been under a tarpaulin for most of the week, the field is already a quagmire. And so for the Minnesota Vikings, as they try and keep their hands warm, waiting to be introduced in the huddle, and now coming out behind them, the Los Angeles Rams. It's odd to see Minnesota out front this early, because when the Rams were working out at 10 minutes past 12 in Los Angeles, why, the Minnesota Vikings were just arriving in the Coliseum, which, of course, is part of the Bud Grant method of operation.
It says don't leave it on the field. Let's leave it in the locker room.
Down on the field, and since he covered a great bit of territory in his playing days, there's Nick Bonaconti, and of course we'll be going to Nick throughout the day, checking on field conditions, injuries, possible strategy, and what have you. And now the Minnesota Vikings have been introduced, and the remainder of the squad will take the field. Now the Rams are left to wait in the tunnel, and eventually they will be introduced to a crowd, I would guess, somewhere around 30,000. This is probably the worst weather for a big game in Los Angeles since '49, when the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Rams in a championship game 14-0. And that day, 27,000 showed up. But the Rams would appear to be hyped up along with what crowd they do have, and in a moment, we'll be getting this one underway. Jack Youngblood, 85. Cody Jones, 76. Jack Reynolds, 64. Isaiah Robertson, 58. So you're looking at the Ram defensive squad right now. There is Pat Thomas and Monty Jackson. In a moment, you'll see number 21, and all eyes will be on him today. That will be Nolan Cromwell, who is playing for the injured Bill Simpson at free safety. So the Rams and the Vikings loosening up and trying to get the feel of the field, and the best way to do it is to just get your nose in the mud, because it's going to be that kind of a day. The weatherman tells us that the rain will stay with us throughout the day. In fact, in his words, there are prospects of heavy rains later on during the day. He's been talking about the fact the rain's not only here, but they will stay here perhaps until Wednesday. So pull up a chair. Hope you will stay warm and dry. And we'll see about the Rams and the Vikings. One of the two will be heading for Dallas. The Vikings just came in last night from Tucson, where they practiced for a couple of days. And as Alex mentioned, it rained on them in Tucson, so they got a little wet in the desert. The captain's coming out, Mick Tingelhoff, along with Jim Marshall. And in a moment, they will meet with referee Ben Dreith for the toss of the coin. And we're waiting for the Ram captains, and they come out now with Tom Mack, Jack Youngblood, and Cullen Bryant. Let's go down to the field and pick up the toss of the coin.
Okay, Minnesota captain, call a coin in the air.
Hit.
Heads he calls. It's a tails.
Take the ball.
So the Rams won the toss, and they will elect to receive. And the Minnesota Vikings will defend and kick off from the right of your screen. The officials, Ben Dreith, the umpire, Art Dennis, with the head linesman, Burl Toller, then Don Orr, Grover Clemmer, and Charlie Musser. So the Minnesota Vikings ready to kick off, and of course in the familiar role for the Vikes in kicking off will be Fred Cox, who is second in NFL history in points scored, and Fred has announced that he will retire after this year. He is a doctor of chiropractics. So Fred Cox, number 14, will get this thing underway. He has scored 1,357 points. Only George Blanda scored more, 2002. And so here it comes. In a moment, the question will be answered. Who is going to play Dallas? We'll take a look at the deep men for the Rams. In the middle will be Wendell Tyler. To his right is Jim Jodat, and to his left, number 32, Cullen Bryant. And Fred Cox, the first thing, he will have to negotiate the swamp for at least 5 yards before kicking the ball, and that will be no easy task. There is Wendell Tyler, number 26, standing on his own 9, and Cox gets it away. It'll go to Cullen Bryant. He lets it go, and it's picked up by Tyler to the 20, to the 25, to about the 28-yard line. So we're underway. Here are the wide receivers, Harold Jackson, Billy Waddy, and the tight end Terry Nelson. In the backfield, the quarterback is Pat Hayden, the running backs Lawrence McCutcheon and John Capoletti. Up front, Franz, Mack, Saul, Horton, and Williams. So the Rams will put it in play on their own 28-yard line, 1st and 10. Waddy is wide right, Harold Jackson wide left. McCutcheon is the deep man out of the eye. And it is first man, Capoletti. And he is just shy of the 35-yard line with Matt Blair making the tackle.
Mike Blair, of course, going to the Pro Bowl this year. What they're working on, though, is what a lot of teams do when they play Minnesota, running straight out of Alan Page. As you know, he's very quick, not very strong or heavy, but he makes it up for it in quickness. Teams like to run at him.
So it'll be 2nd and 4 from the Ram 34-yard line. A pickup at 6, slot left with Waddy inside Jackson. Back split, and we'll see if Hayden puts it up. It'll be McCutcheon. And McCutcheon has a first down to the 45, to midfield, to the 40-yard line. And out of bounds, he is finally brought down at the last minute by Alan Page.
As you mentioned, Alan Page, good in pursuit, good speed in the whole deal. Good blocking on the outside. Greg Horton throwing a nice block. McCutcheon, the rest of it just his. The second leading back this year in the National Football Conference in rushing. Good range by Alan Page. Everybody has success running against the Vikings, or more success than passing. They give up about 160 yards per game.
And McCutcheon has had 6 100-yard games this year. So they have reached Viking territory to the Viking 39-yard line. 1st and 10, and again it's a slot left. It's the second man, McCutcheon, and he's inside the 35-yard line. Somehow Blair and Page team up to bring him down.
As we look at Alan Page, he's in an over-shifted alignment there, head on the center. As you see Rich Saul trying to block him, kind of neutralizes him for a little bit. Double teaming Alan right there. There he is, Alan Page. Vikings know they have to stop the Rams' running game because they will run and run and run until you stop it.
2nd and 3 from the Viking 33-yard line. Just the start of the ball game. John Capoletti trying to find a block. Nowhere to go. Rick Saul had pulled to lead the way, but he couldn't make much of a cut in that swamp. Let's take a look at the Vikings, who will have their nose in the mud right now, with Eller, Sutherland, Page, and Marshall up front. Behind them, Blair, Seaman, and McNeil. At the corners, Nate Wright, Bobby Bryant. And at safety, Jeff Wright and Paul Krause. So the Rams now with a 3rd and 3. The ball is placed on the Viking 32-yard line. And again, the backs are split. McCutcheon is a mass of mud already. And it'll be McCutcheon who'll get muddied again. And he gets just about to the 30, but he still has a ways to go. Jeff Seaman making the tackle. Well, the crowd this early in the ball game saying go for it. Coming in is tight end Charles Young along with Cullen Bryant, and that means they got the big honchos in there, and they're going to go for the first down. So Mullaney and Nate Allen come in, and Krause and Bryant go out along with Blair. Now Krause comes back in, but Blair goes out.
Surprises me a little bit, Ben. Chuck Knox plays it usually straight to the vest, plays percentages.
Well, perhaps a tempo if they feel that they can run on Minnesota. Let's see if they can do it. 4th and 1 from the 31. Hayden to McCutcheon, and he is belted. And from this angle, it would not appear he made it. Page and Mullaney teaming up.
Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, number 50. 6-year veteran and a good middle linebacker. Fills the hole nicely. He's got to know they're going to be running Alan Page just straight at him in short yardage situations.
And the Vikings held as the Rams disdain a field goal attempt, and the Vikings will take over 1st and 10. Rashad, White, and Voigt figure to handle the football from the hands of Bob Lee, with Miller and Foreman doing the running. Miller, of course, is in there for the injured Brent McClanahan. Rashad is wide left and White wide right. And Bob Lee, first play, gives to Foreman, and he runs into a crowd. We can take a look at the Rams defensively now. Jack Youngblood, along with Cody Jones, Larry Brooks, and the other end, Fred Dreyer. At linebacker, Jim Youngblood, Jack Reynolds, Isaiah Robertson. At the corners, Thomas and Jackson. At safety, Elmendorf, and the rookie, Nolan Cromwell, playing for Bill Simpson. 2nd and 8 from the 32. And Bob Lee going to the air. Fakes, then goes over the middle. No good. Intended for Bob Miller and almost picked off by Dave Elmendorf. And a flag on the play.
Robert Miller playing for the injured Brent Clanahan, who underwent surgery the other day on a bad knee. As you look at Bob Lee, more of a classic drop-back passer than Fran Tarkin, who played there before. He likes to go to his wide receivers for the most part. When Miller entered the game in place of the injured McClanahan, you kind of figured he'd going to go to his backs a little more, Miller being a better pass receiver than McClanahan.
Well, from the first indication, a penalty against Minnesota as they go back on their own 15-yard line to huddle. And in a moment, Ben Dreith and company will give us the call after pacing it off.
Offensive holding, number 73.
That would be Ron Yeri of Minnesota trying to give Bob Lee an extra moment, but he was called holding. So it is 2nd and 18. The ball just shy of the 23-yard line. Rashad to the left and White right. Robert Miller across the 25 and down at the 30-yard line. At the bottom, Isaiah Robertson along with Monty Jackson.
as we look at this again, mixing his plays up a little bit, you kind of look for him to go to the air that time. Bob Lee decided to go ahead and try Robert Miller and catch him into that outside rush, as you know Freddie Dryer and Jack Youngblood do. Rush that passer, and they go to the outside to do it.
3rd and 10 from the Viking 30. The Rams, by the way, had 36 sacks this year. Last year they had 45, so they slacked off a little bit. Bob Lee looking to release, goes down the left side, and it's complete to Ahmad Rashad for the first down to the 41-yard line. Rashad, who led the NFC with 51 passes this year, goes up in the air to make the first reception of the day.
Rashad gave a nice little inside move that time before he went outside. Working on Monty Jackson, and that's kind of surprising. Monty Jackson led the league in interceptions last year, has 5 this year, and they don't work too much on him.
So the Vikings first held the Rams on their own 32-yard line, now turn around and pick up a first down on their own 42. Bob Lee giving to Foreman, who tried to cut, slipped, and he was easy prey for, among others, Fred Dryer. Friends, this telecast, presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience, and rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Los Angeles Rams and the National Football League is prohibited. So the Vikings have moved the ball to their own 44. They took over on their own 32. It is 2nd and 8 in the rain, and apparently will be going steady with the raindrops all day. Rashad left and White right, so they haven't changed that formation at all. Lee going to try it again. Goes deep down the left side. Rashad makes a great catch. He beat Monty Jackson, and Nolan Cromwell, the free safety, had to come over and knock him out of bounds. Big play for Minnesota.
And the pressure was on, as you see, number 76, Cody Jones, giving a good rush there. Ed White trying to defend him, hooking him a little bit with the left arm. Jones getting there just a little bit late. There you see the pressure, and look at the catch by Rashad here. Both feet inbounds like that. He had a great game last week. He's got to come on strong. For the Vikings to win, Rashad and Sammy White and Chuck Foreman are going to have super days.
Well, they've got it to the Ram 31-yard line. That pass started from the Viking 42, so a big chunk of yardage picked up quickly by Bob Lee. 1st and 10 Vikings on the Ram 31. Rashad is left and White is right. Foreman and Miller behind Bob Lee. And it'll be Bob Miller going around the outside, head on by Dave Elmendorf, who brought him down, and then the other Rams came along to make sure. Robert Miller playing for Brent McClanahan. Miller, 5'11", 204-pounder out of Kansas. He was a number 5 draft choice. This is 3 years of experience in the NFL. On the sideline, the anxious Rams, all they can do is stand and wait and hope. That's Al Cowlings and Jackie Wallace, among others. 2nd and 7 from the 27. And Lee going to throw wide to Bob Miller, and he's got him, and he's at the 20-yard line, and he'll pick up another first down. And Monty Jackson, and they're going after Monty, finally made the tackle.
Lee on a roll out there. You know, for some reason or other, Bob Lee does not want to throw the ball to Chuck Foreman. It's right surprising. In the 4 games he's been a starter for the Vikings, Foreman has only caught 1 pass, but he's not the least bit reluctant to go to Robert Miller. How do you explain that, Ben Scully?
The only thing I can think of, too, is the Rams know he hasn't thrown to Foreman, so Grant might figure, okay, they're bundled up. The pride of Sewickley, Pennsylvania, Mr. Chuck Knox, in his 5th NFC title. By the way, the Rams are the only team in the NFL to go undefeated at home this year. They were 7-0. In fact, they allowed only 45 points here at the Coliseum with 2 shutouts over Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. However, the Vikings are after him here in the opening minutes with 7:11 to go in the first quarter. Foreman trying to angle through, but you just can't make that kind of a run. And standing on the sidelines, Alex, is one of the secondary stories of the game, Joe Namths.
And may not be before the game's over. If something should happen to Pat Hayden, don't be surprised if you see him in there. Cody Jones, Jack Reynolds fighting off the blocks, Isaiah Robinson right there. Reynolds has been a real boost for this Ram defense. In the 5 or 6 games he's played in since his holdout earlier in the year, they've won 5 of them since he returned to that middle linebacking spot.
3rd and 4 from the 14-yard line. Lee looking right and releasing to Robert Miller, and he fumbles the ball, It will be recovered by the Vikings. The Vikings recovered the ball on the 6-yard line. We'll see who came across to make it. It was Sammy White who fell on the fumble, number 85, to save the moment after Robert Miller let that wet hog get away.
Just came out altogether. White downfield. That's only the 13th fumble recovery that the the Vikings defense made all year. That's surprising if you number.
One of the big statistical notes against the Vikings this year, they were minus 18 in turnovers. So it is first and goal, the ball on the Rams 6-yard line. And it'll be Chuck Foreman, and he's going to go in. Touchdown.
Well, would you ever? Goes off that right side. They're running behind Ron Yeri and Ed White, right at Jack Youngblood, and Jim Youngblood for that matter. Nolan Cromwell finally getting him, but a little too late.
The Vikings must be sky high for the moment. First, the Rams gambled. Remember, 4th and 1 on the Viking 32. They did not go for the field goal. They missed, and the Vikings took over and moved from their own 32-yard line all the way for a touchdown. And now Freddie Cox gets it up and good. And the Minnesota Vikings in the rain and mud of the Los Angeles Coliseum with 5 minutes and 43 seconds remaining in the first quarter. It is Minnesota 7 and Los Angeles nothing.
Know what I put on before shopping? My glasses. I look at labels. For 100% natural, easy washing denim jeans, I look for
the seal of cotton.
For soft, thirst towels,
the seal of cotton.
For shirts that are cotton comfortable, plus no ironing,
the seal of cotton.
For sheets that mean sleeping comfort. Whenever comfort matters, I look for the seal of cotton. The more cotton, the better you feel.
When you order a beer, do like Smoking Joe. Order light beer from Miller and say no more. It's got a third less calories than the regular beer. Light tastes great, y'all, but listen here. It's not the thing that makes me shout. Light's less filling, and that really knocks me out.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
The Minnesota Vikings, thanks to Chuck Foreman going over from the 5, are leading the Rams 7-0. And for Foreman, in his 66th game, he has scored 67 touchdowns. Remarkable.
You got it.
And Fred Cox will kick it off. Deep is Wendell Tyler. And he'll backtrack to his own 7-yard line. To the 20. To the 25. And that's the end of it. Among others, Wally Hilgenberg and Nate Allen in there. So the Rams will take over 1st and 10, and we have a chance to remind you that the best of the CBS Sports Spectacular coming up next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and the best is really just that. We'll talk about the January schedule for now, the WBA Light Heavyweight Championship with Cuello versus Parlow. So the Rams put it in play, 1st and 10 as they moved it out to their own 34-yard line. Lawrence McCutcheon to the 40 and across the 40 to about the 43. He would be about a yard shy of the first down. Standing on the sidelines, Jackie Slater. And there is Winston Hill. He thought his career was all over. He was cooking ribs in Denver when the Rams picked him up. And there is Chuck Knox, who went for the first down, didn't get it. And the Vikings then drove for the touchdown and lead 7-0. We have 5 minutes and 3 seconds left to go in the first quarter. 2nd and 1 from the 43. Slot left. Waddy is inside Harold Jackson. John Capoletti got away from one man but then couldn't go anyway. He was hit by Jim Marshall, and at the bottom, Doug Sutherland.
They weren't real sure whether John Capoletti was going to start. He's had a groin pull, and they weren't sure how much action he was going to see today. Had some bad ribs too.
They need less than a yard for the first down. So on a 3rd down play, Matt Blair goes out and big Mark Mullaney comes in. Mullaney is 6'6". There's Bud Grant standing in the rain and has already played a card to lead 7-0. Waddy is wide right, and Harold Jackson left. 3rd and 1. They go to Chuck Foreman. He goes outside, picked up the first down. Brought down by Jeff Wright, number 23, and Nate Wright.
Capoletti being the lead blocker that time. They have yet to throw a pass, as the Rams have. Handoff there to McCutcheon. Look at the lead block there by John Capoletti. Hole opening on the other side. Good blocking on the outside there by Terry Nelson.
Bit of irony that the Wright boys would not let him get off the ground.
You got it.
To the 48, where it's 1st and 10 Rams. 7-0 Minnesota, first quarter. 3:30 left to go. Waddy left, Jackson right, so they flip-flop the wide receivers. And a release to McCutcheon. And McCutcheon gets to midfield on his own. Matt Blair went sailing by on a brush block by Greg Horton. Neither man could get any traction at all. A boy who's accustomed to playing at the Coliseum, Fred McNeil, who went to school here at UCLA, made the tackle for the Vikings. We have 3 minutes and 1 second left to go in the first quarter. The Vikings, thanks to Chuck Foreman, are leading 7-0. A very good drive engineered by Bob Lee. 2nd and 8 from the midfield stripe. Waddy right, Jackson left. And McCutcheon is belted by Doug Sutherland, who hit him just before he got to the line of scrimmage and really laid a lick on him.
You don't, he's a stay-at-home player, Sutherland is, and you don't hear a lot about him, but he plays that position. He gets to run pretty well. He's reading there. I think it's a missed assignment. He went unblocked altogether that time. Jeff Seaman coming in on top.
Waddy in a slot left, inside Jackson. Hayden down the middle, and he's got his tight end, Terry Nelson, and he can't hold on to it. Jeff Seaman hit him just as the ball arrived. Terry Nelson has had a big year at tight end for the Rams.
He certainly has. He's caught, 19 passes in the last 4 games. And with the double coverage, you're going to give Waddy and Harold Jackson, you know that's going to leave that tight end wide open. As you saw Chester yesterday run a roughshod over the Baltimore Colts.
Glenn Walker does not kick him deep. He has averaged only 35 yards a punt. Manfred Moore all alone on the 15-yard line of Minnesota. Walker played his collegiate days here. There's Manfred Moore, who went to USC, as did Walker. So one Trojan will be kicking to another. That was McNeil sailing in, but not able to get a piece of the ball. A fair catch by Manfred Moore, almost hit by Cullen Bryant and Jim Jodat. It was almost a delayed fair catch, and he almost got bumped because of it. A 31-yard punt, no return, 7-0 Minnesota, 1:51 in the first quarter.
America's best-selling new car in history, the new Ford Fairmont. What's behind Fairmont's success? Fairmont's roominess, more room for the money than any other car. Fairmont's mileage, highest EPA mileage rating of any midsize car. Fairmont's price, lowest sticker price of any midsize car. Test drive America's best-selling new car ever at your Ford dealer, where the better ideas keep coming.
MGM presents Telefon, code name for a top-secret plan for total destruction, triggered by a simple telephone call. A deadly chase across 2 continents that will lead this man and this woman into incredible danger and plunge them and you into the most explosive motion picture of the year. Charles Bronson, Lee Remick, Telefon, rated PG, coming this holiday season to theaters nationwide.
Well, now we know where the Sun is. It's in El Paso, Texas for the Sun Bowl. Next Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Stanford versus LSU, and Burt Reynolds. Who could ask for anything more?
My guy. Semi-tough and semi-talented.
John Capoletti standing on the sideline now as the Vikings go to work. 1st and 10 from their own 17. And Lee will pass on 1st down, and he's going deep, intended for Sammy White. Off the hands of Pat Thomas, who is defending. Sammy White and Thomas going stride for stride on the bomb.
All year long they've been working on Pat Thomas, but not having much luck getting to him. Pat's come on real well. He's done a good job for the Rams. Just in his second year, came up with 5 interceptions this year for the Rams, and I guess that leads the Rams in interception. Bill Simpson has 6, I'm sorry.
There's Pat Hayden waiting for his next chance to get a drive going. Remember, he had it 4th and 1 on the 32 of Minnesota. They elected to go for the down and couldn't make it. 2nd and 10 from the 17. This time White goes left and Rashad goes right. Chuck Foreman running into people, spins. Down he goes across the 20. Jim Youngblood, along with Dave Elmendorf and Isaiah Robertson.
Isaiah Robertson and Jim Youngblood going to make the stop again.
You don't hear too much about Stu Boyd because he doesn't catch many passes. I think he's only caught, what, 20 passes this year? Only a fair blocker, as you see right there. Isaiah Robertson just completely overpowering him that time.
So a 3rd and 5 play now for the Vikings. The ball at the Viking 22-yard line. And it is Chuck Foreman. He can't make it. Down at the bottom is Freddie Dreyer, number 89. And these numbers will slowly but surely disappear. So on a 4th down situation, the Vikings will give it up, and Neil Clabo, who's been averaging almost 40 yards a punt, 39.8, out of Tennessee. There tells the story for him. He's had to punt 83 times. Deep for the Rams, Cullen Bryant and Billy Waddy. And the punt will send Billy Waddy retreating to his own 20-yard line. Still on his feet, and down he goes. And it was Fred McNeil who got him after Nate Allen just missed him. McNeil, number 54, making the stop. So the Rams will put it in play with 21 seconds left to go in the first quarter. And the Minnesota Vikings leading the Rams 7-0.
You're the one, you quarter-pounder people.
My dad's a policeman. My dad's a fireman. Oh, yeah, well, my dad's a quarter-pounder person.
You're the one, you quarter-pounder people.
Okay, Johnny, that's 102 and a quarter pounds. Where'd you pick up that extra quarter?
McDonald's Quarter Pounder and Quarter Pounder with cheese. A big quarter pound of juicy, lean 100% beef on a sesame seed bun. A quarter pounder person knows there's just one quarter pounder and just one place to get one.
A quarter pounder person has a smile a mile around. There's lots of quarter pounder people, just one place they can be found.
You know how I first knew I was a quarter pounder person? Every day at 12 o'clock I turned into a McDonald's.
At McDonald's, quarter pounder people, we do it all for you.
A savage invasion brings terror to a peaceful town. Claudican stars, tarantulas, the deadly cargo. Wednesday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.
Boy, what a show we have for you on tap. Monday, January 2nd, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The Cotton Bowl. Undefeated Texas with Heisman Trophy winner Earl Campbell, among others, against Notre Dame, 10-1. Boy, don't miss that one. The Rams now putting it in play. 1st and 10 from their own 22. Hayden has Capoletti and McCutcheon. Jackson is right and Waddy left. Capoletti goes by Carl Eller and grabbed there by Nate Wright. Harold Jackson was trying to push Nate Wright out of the play, but he couldn't do it.
Capoletti should have gone inside that time. Hesitated making his cut. You can't make them as well, though, on that slippery field. Even though they are wearing mud cleats, which are a good deal longer, between a quarter of an inch and a half an inch longer than the regular cleats. And I'm sure that Bud Grant has not changed his footwear at all. He doesn't change anything.
Well, the quarter has run out. The Minnesota Vikings striking early, leading the Los Angeles Rams 7-0.
One little fender bender.
We take care of the estimate, and we can settle up on the spot.
Just a couple more minutes.
Allstate has hundreds of drive-in locations, so you don't have to chase estimates.
What a difference.
When it takes being different to be better,
Bye.
Allstate will do it.
That's a promise from us, the good hands people.
What you doing there, Stevie?
Checking to see the tread's wearing evenly on my Goodrich radials, Jocelyn.
Why?
My Goodrich dealer said I should.
Why?
It's safer, and I want the tires to last even longer.
Why?
They're fabulous tires. You don't know anything about tires, Jocelyn.
Hey, look! The Goodrich split! Gotcha!
Tires you can trust. B.F. Goodrich. The other guys.
And so we start the second quarter at the Soggy Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles. 7-0 Minnesota, and the Rams have it. 2nd and 9 on their own 24. McCutcheon, the deep man out of the eye, and he'll carry inside, a block by Cappelletti.
One of the most durable backs in NFL history, I guess. 12 years, Tom Mack, number 65. He has never missed a game. He's been a starter since his rookie season. Doing a good job on Alan Page right there.
He will eventually pass the all-timer in Ram history, Merlin Olsen, who played in 198 straight. 3rd and 5 from the 28-yard line. Waddy is right, Jackson left. The back split. Hayden, most of the time, passes out of this formation. And the backs both flare out. Harris throws to Cappelletti, and he can't make it. So both backs came out, and that was the plan, to throw to one of the two, and he went to Cappelletti. Matt Blair was there to defend.
Boy, you got to hand it to these Vikings. When it comes playoff time, they are tournament tough, aren't they?
One of the things that Chuck Knox has had to contend with all week in Los Angeles, for that matter maybe 2 weeks, is the constant talk about the Rams and will they beat the Dallas Cowboys. And Knox keeps saying, as far as I'm concerned, Dallas doesn't exist. It's the Minnesota Vikings.
And how true that is. You got to get by today to get to Dallas.
Glenn Walker will be punting from his own 15-yard line. Manfred Moore standing on his 35. Walker hangs it, but very short. The ball hits on the Viking 45, takes a Ram bounce inside the 35, and it'll be down at the 31. So though the kick didn't travel very far in the air, nevertheless he got it down to the 31-yard line of Minnesota. So the Vikings will put it in play 1st and 10 from their own 31, 13:59 to the half.
Yeah, Buck. I just went to another bar and asked for light beer for Miller.
Yeah?
They said, sorry, Buck, we don't have it.
They didn't have it?
No. I don't want some beer that's going to fill me up.
No.
I want light. Tastes great.
Right.
Has a third less calories than a regular beer.
Yeah.
And man, it's less filling. You think I'm going to the other bar again? No way. From now on, the buck stops here.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Sir, what's the hurry? Going to rent a car. Oh, well, you don't have to run. Gotta run. Oh, no, if you had an Avis Wizard number, you could walk.
Walk.
Call toll-free and let our Wizard system do the running. Just show a major credit card, license, sign, and get the car.
I don't have to run through airports?
Not with Avis.
I can walk through airports.
We try harder, Avis. Avis, we don't know another way.
I'm walking through airports.
You may be looking at an answer to tomorrow's food shortages. A natural protein that grows indoors, developed by the people of Phillips Petroleum. Once processed, this protein can be used to help feed livestock. So millions of acres now needed to grow food for animals can be used to grow food for people instead. Helping prevent tomorrow's food shortages while we make fine products for your car. That's performance from Phillips Petroleum, the performance company.
That's Ram quarterback Pat Hayden waiting for another opportunity as the Vikings take over 1st and 10 on their own 31. Sammy White in a slot inside Rashad. In motion goes Chuck Foreman. Lee is looking to the right side, throwing to Sammy White, who juggled and dropped it. And just in case, Pat Thomas decked him anyway. Bob Lee. You might not remember that in Super Bowl 11, he completed 7 out of 9, including a touchdown. He went to school up north at the College of Pacific. Before that, he was at the City College of San Francisco, and another fella in the same backfield was O.J. Simpson.
Probably had his best years when he was with Atlanta. He beat Minnesota on a Monday night game there one year.
2nd and 10 from the 31. Again a slot right. White inside Rashad. This time it's Foreman outside a Robert Miller block. Jim Youngblood will try to stretch his arm another 7 inches. He almost pulled it out of its socket.
Jim Youngblood started the year, as most of you know, in the middle for the Rams. They moved him to the outside when Jack Reynolds returned. He's the leading tackler on the ball club. Plays it outside a whole lot better than he does the middle. Foreman finding no room whatsoever to run. Pat Thomas in there to put it in the back.
So Jim Youngblood, who just made that tackle or arm wrestle, however you want to call it, comes out to the sidelines. Jackie Wallace, who at one time played for Minnesota, is now in there on the defense. He was in 2 Super Bowls, one with Minnesota and another with Baltimore. He's number 20 for the Rams. 3rd and 11 from the 30, so they lost 1 on that last play. Lee almost slipped and fell, regained his balance, and down he goes with Cody Jones and Larry Brooks right there. And he's down at about his 17-yard line.
Good rush from the inside, and that's what all teams in football would like to see. Those defensive tackles breaking down that pocket. As you see,
line.
good rush from the inside, and that's what all teams in football would like to see. Those defensive tackles breaking down that pocket. As you see Bob Lee retreat there. Cody Jones, number 76 there. Larry Brooks, number 90. There's Ahmad Rashad open on a play, as you saw. Monty Jackson fell down. Didn't have time. Good inside rush there by the Rams.
Neil Claybo will be kicking from inside his 10-yard line. Deep is Billy Waddy. And Claybo will get it off, and Billy Waddy will field it on the Ram 41 to the 45 and to about the 47 or 48. He was trying to get a block from Phillips or Scales. He couldn't quite position them, and he had to go down. So the Rams will put it in play. 1st and 10 on their own 48-yard line in the rain in Los Angeles. Minnesota 7, Los Angeles nothing.
Ford introduces the new Futura. A dramatic combination of styling and technology for 1978 and beyond. Futura. Its striking design is the result of computer modeling and extensive aerodynamic testing. Its excellent fuel economy results in part from the use of lighter weight, high-strength metals in Futura's construction. And Futura's ride is the result of a newly created advanced front suspension system. Futura. In a world where cars are looking more and more alike, it represents a change. A dramatic combination of styling and technology from 1978 and beyond. Realistically priced for today. See your Ford dealer for a personal test drive.
What a way to start the new year. Next Sunday, January 1st, the NFC Championship game. The Dallas Cowboys at home entertaining the winner of this one. And it will all start with the NFL today at 5 p.m. Eastern. 7-0 Minnesota. 12:35 to go to the first half. It is 1st and 10 Rams. And Hayden has Jackson left and Waddy right. Play-action fake to Capoletti, throwing to McCutcheon, and it was overthrown. McCutcheon barely got his right hand on the ball.
Good rush on Hayden that time. Doug Sutherland came back, put good pressure on him, made him release the ball a little hurried. Overthrew his mark considerably.
Is now 1 for 4, and the Ram passing game has picked up a total of 3 yards, while Bob Lee is 5 for 7 for 57, as we see Jack Youngblood sitting on his helmet, chewing gum, and waiting.
He's setting some duck blinds down in Florida like that before, and weather just exactly like this.
Right at home. 2nd and 10 from the 48. McCutcheon inside, a good block by Rich Saul. Saul put a good block on Alan Page, and McNeil and Seaman had to make the tackle as he got across midfield.
Good adjustment that time by Rich Saul. You see Page taking an inside rush there. Rich Saul making the adjustment and hooking him right on in. You see the lead blocker coming through there. Nice job, Rich Saul. You've done good.
Out of Michigan State, a veteran of 8 years. So it is 3rd and 4 for the Rams. They've moved the ball to the Minnesota 46-yard line. Harold Jackson wide left, Billy Waddy right. And again, they split the backs. We'll see if they stay in the block or release. They both go out. Hayden down the middle and overthrew. Terry Nelson slipped and went down as he was wide open as he slipped.
Say he's been hot the last 4 weeks. They got to go to him more and more. They're using that double coverage. Look at the linebacker working on him. Matt Blair trying to hold him off there. He's wide open there, but he just can't keep his feet. That's a quagmire down in the middle of the field.
Ball thrown slightly behind, and as Terry Nelson tried to jam on the brakes, of course, you saw what happened. Glenn Walker will be punting now, and standing deep, Manfred Moore, and hold everything. The Rams are indicating it is against Minnesota and against Alan Page, and if so, the Rams will keep the ball in a very important offside penalty.
There you go. They had the block on, I suppose, that time. I can't imagine why Alan Page would try to rush it that much if it wasn't.
Wrong and you know it.
Defense encroachment. First down.
So Alan Page, 11 years in the league, embarrassed, and you don't embarrass him very often, but it's a big play. And Page caught with a hand in the cookie jar, and the Rams take over. 1st and 10 on the Viking 41. Waddy is left, Jackson right. And it'll be Capoletti. And a fine play by Jeff Wright. Jeff Wright spun off the block by Billy Waddy and then caught him from behind. He looked like a runaway revolving door making the tackle. Watch Jeff Wright.
I don't know what in the world coverage they were in that time, but Jeff Wright was up there on the line of scrimmage quicker than most of the linebackers. There's Page and Marshall there. Getting caught up, the domino effect right there.
No, it is 2nd and 8. The ball on the Viking 39-yard line. Lawrence McCutcheon, following Tom Mack, gets across the 35-yard line. Horton, Mack, and Capoletti were all moving on that, and it was Blair and Seaman who had to finally come up and wedge it down.
What can you say about Lawrence McCutcheon? Look how he keeps the feet. He's running like it's a dry turf down there altogether. He's just been perhaps the most consistent ball carrier the Rams have ever had. That
He
takes
is
in some
indeed.
good ones, too.
Without a doubt. And, of course, this year, among other things, he passed Dick Bass's all-time record. McCutcheon, for his career prior to today, rushed for over 5,500 yards in 5 years. 3rd and 3 from the 34. Both backs are released, and the pass goes to the tight end, Terry Nelson, at the 30, to the 25, to the 20, and is wrestled out by Matt Blair. And that will be the 1st down, and so that offside or encroachment penalty charged against Alan Page has now become a very big play.
Yes, sir, and that's who they're going to have to go to, Terry Nelson. You see him, number 83, been a good, dependable receiver, just never got the playing times as Bob Klein's been playing the last few years before he's traded to San Diego. Nelson has been coming on strong for the Rams. What they're doing with speed like Waddy and Jackson, you just cannot allow them one-on-one coverage, and they're putting linebackers on him, and you just can't do it. Nelson's too good a receiver for that.
1st and 10 from the Viking 18-yard line. 7-0 Minnesota. Lawrence McCutcheon gets to the 15, and a flag on the play. The ball was ripped out of McCutcheon's hands by Paul Krause. There might, I think it's going to be against the Rams for holding. That's the preliminary signal. That's what it is.
Tom Mack throwing a little mud. It might have been on him. Let's wait and see.
Offensive holding, number 61.
Rich Saul. Rich Saul, the guilty party.
So encroachment against Alan Page was a good one. Then holding against Rick Hall, and we can pick it up right there. Saul has a pretty good grip trying to open up a hole. So that sets
One.
Rich Saul. Rich Saul, the guilty party.
So encroachment against Alan Page was a good one. Then holding against Rick Hall. And we can pick it up right there. Saul has a pretty good grip trying to open up a hole. So that sets the ball back to the 28-yard line. 1st and 20. Slot left. Waddy inside Harold Jackson. Play action fake to McCutcheon. And they build up a screen to Terry Nelson. John Williams blocking in front of him, and he's caught from behind, gets away from Alan Page, and goes out of bounds at the 8-yard line. Page had him back on the 12, but he got away from him.
Good imaginative call there by Pat Hayden. Gracious me, let me see if I can get it right. Tight end screen. Look how he follows his blocking there, too. Breaking the tackle there. Excellent balance right there. Didn't even break him off stride. Look at the shot he took right there on the sideline.
It might have been the mud to help because Alan Page had him and just slithered right down his body and couldn't get a grip.
Page all over the field today, isn't he?
He sure is. Of course, when Alan comes back here, he has known some great battles in his collegiate career in the Coliseum when he went to Notre Dame. And, of course, every Viking who's been around has gone head-to-head with the Rams. So the ball is down to the 9, where it is 1st and goal. Cullen Bryant is wide right. Capoletti down to the 5. See him lift his feet somehow without slipping. Well, let's backtrack. The Rams had a 4th and 1 on the Viking 32, went for the 1st down and missed. The Vikings drove for a touchdown as Foreman carried it over. Now on this drive, it looked like the Rams might be stopped. Alan Page, guilty of encroachment. The big play on the screen to the tight end Terry Nelson, and the Rams now are 5 yards away from going in. And Rod Phillips is in there with McCutcheon, and Cullen Bryant is split wide to the right. Hayden looking left, now back down in the middle, no good, and intercepted instead by Nate Allen, who came out of nowhere to handle it.
Don't even know what Nate Allen's doing in the ball game. They must have put in a 5th back for some reason or other. I didn't see the injury. You don't see Pat Hayden do that very much. He's only thrown 6 interceptions this year. This one wasn't even close. Watch him keep his feet in bounds here. Well-schooled, well-coached. Nate Allen.
Even in a changing world, some things will never change, like the comfort of 100% cotton denim jeans. 100% cotton means soft, breathable comfort. And Wrangler makes them with a special no-fault process. They won't shrink, pucker, or wrinkle. They fit natural, fade natural, and stay neat, no matter where you take them. When you're looking at blue jeans, check the label. Make sure you're looking at 100% cotton denim.
With the price of most things going up, the sticker price of Pinto, the best-selling American small car, is coming down. New 78 model Pintos with more standard features will have a lower sticker price than last year's model comparably equipped. Important features are now standard, like AM radio, power front disc brakes, rear window defroster, tinted glass, and protective body side moldings. Ford Pinto, the best-selling American small car. Now more car for the money than last year. At Ford, the better ideas keep coming.
There's a war over champagne fizzling, and both the United States and France mean business. That story and more on a special Monday edition of 60 Minutes. Tonight at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.
A moment in time for Nate Allen as he picks off the pass from Pat Hayden. The nearest Ram was Charles Young, a tight end. And for Hayden, that's the 7th interception he's thrown this year. 1st and 10 Vikings on their own 20. Bradley gives to Chuck Foreman. He gets by Isaiah Robertson and hit by Monty Jackson and chased by Cody Jones. There's a flag on the play. And the holding will go against Minnesota. Would you say the second guess will be up Hawk a little bit on Hayden putting the ball up in the air when the Rams had run so well?
Yes, sir. They sure will be. You don't see Pat Hayden throw that kind of ball too often.
Offensive holding number 78.
Steve Riley,
who has been playing excellent ball for Minnesota all year. Most people across the country are familiar with Ron Yeri, not so familiar with the other tackle, but Steve Riley, who played here at USC, has been a mainstay for Minnesota. 1st and 20 from the 10. In motion goes Robert Miller. And there goes Chuck Foreman. Foreman tied up by Jack Reynolds, who's down at the very bottom of the pile, number 64, who, by the way, did not play for the Rams until October the 24th. And in those 6 games in which he started, the Rams won 5 of the 6 as Chuck Knox watching Chuck Foreman and company trying to hold on to the ball. 7-0 Minnesota. And a big interception by Nate Allen, stemming the tide of what appeared to be a Ram drive for a touchdown. 2nd and 15 from the 15. Chuck Foreman. Pretty hard to get any traction in the mud. The Vikings this year played 5 games against playoff teams, and their only victory was in overtime against Chicago. And in talking about playoff teams, someone figured out that the home team this year won 57% of the time, but the playoff teams won 84% of the time, and outside of Baltimore, that's still holding out.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Chuck Foreman, and among other people, Jack Reynolds. He got just shy of the 20-yard line, and he had to get to the 20 for the first down. Or it even started. He had another 10 yards to go. He had to get to the 30, so Neil Clabo will come in and punt. 7-0 in favor of Minnesota. We have 6:35 to go in the second quarter in a light rain and the most ominous black cloud you ever saw moving in overhead. Clabo will be kicking to twin safeties. Cullen Bryant, number 32, Billy Waddy, number 80. Waddy, the top of the screen. And Neil Clabo, averaging almost 40 yards a punt. His longest, 69. Clabo gets it away, and feeling it is Billy Waddy. He ran by Blayhock, but he's upended once he got across the 45. Blayhock, number 21, had a shot at him, but he got by. Sammy Johnson finally brought him down. Here you'll see him get by Blayhock, kind of bouncing, and then runs right up the back of Al Cowlings, who was trying to block for him. And it is 7-0 Minnesota, 6 minutes and 10 seconds to the half.
Stanley salutes the Millers, who finally tackled their cluttered garage. Stanley Tools and Hardware help them measure the space, build the shelves, hang the tools, store the ladder, and make a bench for potting plants. Stanley also makes the automatic garage door opener they installed themselves.
Stanley, we want to help you do things right.
We've even got room for the car.
Stanley, the do-it-yourself company.
Stanley, we want to help you do things right.
Say, rolling writer.
Rolling writer.
No, smooth, flowing, like the rolling writer Pentel pen. Try it. No.
Writer Pentel pen.
I think he's got it.
Rolling writer.
Pentel pen.
We're going to put a spotlight on the big round ball with our NBA special, the 78 season, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, January 1st. So Hayden takes over on the Viking 45, 1st and 10, hands to McCutcheon. And he's across the 40.
Then, although the score wouldn't indicate it, that Los Angeles right side, or the entire offensive line for that fact, seems to be handling the Vikings up front rather well, but they can't put anything sustained together, it doesn't look like.
It's pretty hard to hold anything together today, although the Vikings did it. It is 2nd and 6 from the 38-yard line of Minnesota. And in a slot right, Waddy is inside Jackson. Here comes McCutcheon, and there goes McCutcheon to the 20-yard line, and on his back, Matt Blair and Jeff Wright.
Once again, Doug France and Tom Mack making the key blocks on that left side.
Every time you see McCutcheon spring for yardage, or Capoletti, you immediately wonder about Hayden's call when he served it up and Nate Allen took it off the platter to stop the last Ram drive. Wendell Tyler will give McCutcheon a breather. Lawrence coming to the sideline. Tyler, number 26. Rod Phillips, number 39 in the Ram backfield now. Waddy is right and Jackson left. It is 1st and 10 on the 21 of Minnesota. Wendell Tyler stymied right at the line of scrimmage. Jeff Seaman was the guy to hit him.
Last time these two teams met, Tyler had him a big day. The only time this season he rushed for over 100 yards. Had about a 44-yard touchdown run in that Monday night game, I believe.
Tyler is another fellow who played an awful lot of football here at the Coliseum. He went to UCLA. In fact, he was the first Bruin to run for 1,000 yards 2 consecutive years. So he's at home. 2nd and 10 for the Rams. 4 minutes and 15 seconds left to the half. 7-0 Minnesota. Play action fake end around to Terry Nelson, the tight end. He's to the 25 and he got back to the line of scrimmage. So they tried to end around with Terry Nelson. Fred McNeil wasn't fooled at all, and the linebacker rode him out.
Once again, kind of an unusual play in a situation like that. Running straight at the Minnesota team, they've had a lot of success. Now they come up with an end-around play like that. You have to wonder about that. They're going away from their basic pattern of just good fundamental football.
And of course, imagine a big tight end trying to make a cut on an end around.
On a slippery turf, that's right.
Looks like the Moors from the Hounds of the Baskervilles. As we go 3rd and 10 from the Minnesota 21. Wendell Tyler on a wing on the left side. Rod Phillips all alone in the backfield, and Hayden going to put it up. And he goes to his big tight end, and Nate Allen is right there to wrestle him to the ground after Terry Nelson made the reception. So the line of scrimmage was the 22. And after an end around by Nelson and a completed pass to Nelson, they have just about picked up 2 yards. So it is 4th down and 4. Raphael Septien out of Mexico City in southwest Louisiana. He is 18 for 30 in field goals. He will be asked to kick the ball from the 23. That would make it a 33-yard field goal, and he is 5 out of 6 in this range, as you see. Septien gets it up and missed it to the right. And Raphael missed 2 field goals against Washington that would have tied, and he was probably thinking about that all week long, huh, Hawk?
Take a look at it. It's been affecting the punters and place kickers, this slippery turf wheel. Didn't even come close with it. Hit it very poorly.
Shanked it off to the right. And for Septien, his confidence certainly not that strong anyway. And now his first shot out of the barrel, he comes up empty. And that could be a big factor later on.
Could
the
be
Vikings.
interesting. A little later on, it could be interesting. Then.
1st and 10 Minnesota from their own 20-yard line. Minnesota leading 7-0. Here comes Chuck Foreman. He gets out just shy of the 25, which brings up another point. It could very well be that Chuck Knox has such second-guessing about Septien that he went for that 4th and 1 instead of the field goal.
That's a thought, man. That's a thought.
You were with us earlier. The Rams won the toss, drove to the Viking 32, had 4th and 1, went for the first down, didn't make it. The Vikings took over and traveled for a touchdown. 2nd and 6, 2:43 from the 24. Robert Miller going outside, and Dave Elmendorf on his back, and then coming up is Monty Jackson. Here's a young man with a lot on his mind and a considerable weight on his shoulder. On the other side, Bud Grant, very busy as usual, wig-wagging a few signals out to Bob Lee. That's Bob Grimm, number 26, to his right. Dennis Swilley, 67, to his left. Now Bob Lee apparently not sure of all that wig-wagging as he goes to the sidelines. And we have the 2-minute warning. So the Minnesota Vikings, with a first period touchdown on a run by Chuck Foreman, have made it stand up to here.
Winning throughout the nation as Hurts the superstar. We got the winning combination. Super people supercars, making that extra effort to meet your special needs. Getting you in, getting you out with super speed. Hearst, the superstar in rent-a-car. Hearst, the superstar in rent-a-car.
You know it.
Introducing the new Remington XLR, the electric shaver that shaved as close as a blade. And to prove it, we're doing something spectacular. We're giving away a blade to compare it with. We guarantee the Remington XLR will shave you as close as a blade or your money back. Now that's really spectacular. The Remington XLR shaves as close as a blade or your money back.
That's success running against Brooks and Dreyer. Brooks, one of the better tackles in football. Ordinarily, you see him running away from him, rather.
2nd and 4 from the 37-yard line for Bob Lee and company. Chuck Foreman tried to go out, then came in. Isaiah Robertson got him from behind, and down he went. Meanwhile, as you can see, the numbers are changing because of the running game. 1:15 left to go to the half. The Rams had 4th and about 1 on the Viking 32, and they didn't make it. And the Vikings, thusly inspired, marched for a touchdown, and that's the story. The Rams had another chance, and Pat Hayden went into the end zone with a pass, I think, intended for Charles Young. Young was about 5 minutes away from the pass by phone, and it was caught by Nate Allen. 3rd and 3 from the 37. Robert Miller. Ed White, number 62, tried to pull and lead the attack, but you just can't get any traction. And we're down to 31 seconds to the half. Minnesota 7 and Los Angeles nothing. Bob Lee against Pat Hayden.
How much chance did you give the Minnesota Vikings when Fran Tarkington went down of making the playoffs?
And remember that the Rams beat them 35-3 right here in October. The coaches, Bud Grant, he's won 107 games in his career. Chuck Knox 54, and Minnesota decides why gamble. Bob Lee leading 7-0, playing with house money right now, so he lets the sands run out. So the Minnesota Vikings have a big touchdown in the mud and rain of Los Angeles, thanks to a 5-yard burst by Chuck Foreman. And that tells it at halftime, Vikings 7, Rams nada.
The Ford in your future is coming. The new Ford Fairmont. A new car designed for today and the years ahead. Fairmont's combined city highway mileage rating is within 2 miles per gallon of a little VW Rabbit. Yet it has almost 90% of the interior room of the Chevrolet Impala and excellent all-around visibility. And Fairmont base sticker prices for 2 doors, 4 doors, and wagons will be surprisingly low. Test drive Fairmont October 7th. Fairmont, the newest, better idea from Ford.
Around Sunnyside, Utah, it's hard to believe there could ever be too much water. But at Kaiser Steel Corporation's coal mines, they pump out 3 million gallons a day, using submersible pumps by Flight, the pump people of ITT. Some water from the ITT pumps is used to keep down coal dust. But most of the water is saved for the town. Around Sunnyside, there's never enough.
Here's to good friends.
Here he comes.
Tonight is kind of special.
Hey, we almost gave up and sent out for pizza. Sorry. All I could get were lobsters and Lowenbrow. All I could get were lobsters and Lowenbrow. Well, it's the last party of the summer. I figured I'd shoot the works.
When you want the taste of a truly great beer, tonight, let it be Lowenbrow.
Like the song says, here's to good friends.
Dad, you have got to get me out of here. Talk to Senator Griswold. After all, you paid good money for him.
Tuesday, the MASH crazies are driving Winchester mad. Then it's a special birthday for Ann.
36 is the time life really begins. So forget your wrinkles and keep up your chins.
Next Saturday, we'll present the best of the CBS Sports Spectacular for 1977 with Leon Spinks. Seattle Slew, the Belmont. Olympic gold medalist Nadia Comaneci. and many more outstanding events. Be sure and be with us for the best of the CBS Sports Spectacular. Next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Central and Pacific.
All of the good fans out in Bloomington are going to love this statistic, but one of our fans from Miami called and said, do you realize that every team that has scored first so far in the playoffs has gone on to win? And if you go back and check, sure enough, they're right. On Saturday, it was Oakland and the Denver Broncos who got the first 7 points, and even though those two games seesawed back and forth, they came through the winner, Dallas, easily earlier today. Let's bring in Jimmy the Greek now and check up on next Sunday's AFC Championship game. Jimmy, how do you analyze a very rough contest?
There's no question about it. I'm sure that everybody out there knows that this is a toss-up practically. But, I mean, the speed really in this game is about even. The whole thing about Stabler over Morton, but Morton definitely had to impress you with the tenacity that he showed in the Pittsburgh game. You know, when you put good people around somebody, of course, I guess it's pretty good. The defensive secondary has to go to Denver because Oakland is hurting, plus the fact they've got Wright and Thompson there, and they're super ball players, plus the fact they made the Super Bowl, rather the super game after the Super Bowl. The linebackers, Granishar and Tom Jackson are real great. The offensive line, I mean, I've got to give it to Oakland because of Upshaw and Sale, but really it definitely will be negated in some way because of the defensive of Denver. Davis and Egan, Davis and Egan definitely are a good running team, you know, but they're just an edge over Armstrong and company. The kicking game, the guy by just the nose because Turner is so good, you know, on the other on field goals. And don't forget that they're at home, you know, but Denver has never beaten, you know, Oakland at home since Al Davis has been around, you know, so consequently, because we have to make somebody favorite and somebody has to win, we're going to make Oakland just a very slight favorite, like a field goal.
All right, Jimmy, you've got Oakland rated a field goal better than Denver, and again, that will be the first championship game next Sunday, and that is going to start at 2 o'clock, and we might as well tell you that NBC will carry that. We'll have the second game. We'll start at 5 o'clock here on CBS. Now, we're going to be back. We're going to interview the commissioner of the NFL, who will be standing by live out in Los Angeles. We'll see highlights, and then Phyllis George will take us back down inside that victorious Dallas locker room for an interview with running back Robert Newhouse. All that coming up on CBS is... NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle is a native of Southern California, but I will not kid him about the weather that he is experiencing in the Coliseum. But I do want to ask a couple of serious questions. And the first one, Commissioner, is about violence. You cracked down as the season began. You fined a couple of players. Are you satisfied now that you have reduced the amount of violence in the National Football League?
Well, I'm satisfied that it's been reduced, Brent. I think that over the regular season we were down about 20% on personal fouls as against a year ago. Obviously, you're never satisfied until it's eliminated. But with a very physical contact, highly emotional sport that football is, it's a difficult job.
Commissioner, you have recently negotiated the largest contract in the history of television for anything, sports, movies, or situation comedies. You've got some more games in prime time. Are you at all concerned that you may be overexposing the National Football League on television?
Well, we've moved up gradually. As you know, Brent, we've reduced our preseason down from 6 to 4 games, and we'll eliminate 3 national telecasts there. I think that the crowds this year and the television audiences indicate we haven't reached a point of overexposure, and I don't think we will next year either.
Commissioner, every year we have a few officiating controversies. This year was no different. And the point I want to make, is it possible for the National Football League to go to isolated replay to help the officials maybe change a possession calls or important calls in playoff games? Is the league thinking about that?
We've talked about it in recent years, and me again, Brent, there are some problems. To do it properly, you would need about 12 camera locations with trained cameramen and a videotape truck so that you could replay the key ones for the appropriate individual. And you're talking about quite an installation. However, anything we can do to improve the situation on officiating, we'd like to do. But so far in our studies have indicated that it would not be feasible.
All right, Commissioner, thank you very much. Enjoy the second half, and we will see you on CBS at the Super Bowl in New Orleans on January 15th. Irv Cross, there was an earlier game on CBS. Was not much of a contest, and you've got some highlights.
Well, it wasn't much of a contest as far as the Bears are concerned, but of course Dallas Cowboy fans had to be happy with a 37-7 victory over the Chicago Bears. And Robert Newhouse was a guy who really set the pace early for Dallas. Here he is now, number 44, on a 13-yard run down to the 6-yard line, which set up a touchdown by Doug Dennison later in the game. And you'll see that right here as Dennison goes off left tackle in the first quarter. Dallas takes an early 7-0 lead. Roger Staubach goes to the air early here, going to Drew Pearson, who brings in a 32-yard pass. Staubach, by the way, had a pretty good throwing day in the first half. Didn't do much. The second half hit 8 for 13 for 134 yards and a touchdown. Staubach going to the air again to Billy Joe Dupree. Here's a touchdown catch right here, a 28-yard touchdown. Dallas takes a 14-0 lead. Robert Newhouse ran the ball well, also does a good job on a screen pass here, up to the upper right-hand corner of your screen as he comes down to the right sideline, down to the Chicago 8-yard line, set up a field goal by Efren Herrera, and Tony Dorsett, a nifty 22-yard touchdown run, and Dallas takes a commanding 24-0 lead. The Bears, trying to get something started, found themselves really in trouble here on a blitz by Dallas as the ball pops loose here from Avellini's hands, and the linebacker recovers it here for the Dallas Cowboys, and they eventually go in to set up another score. Avellini, trying to get the ball off again, is in trouble. The ball's hit, or ladder here is hit, and he fumbles the ball, and Dede Lewis recovers it and takes it down to the 8-yard line, and the Dallas Cowboy defense is alert all day long, and Tony Dorsett does arrest from the 8-yard line. He goes in, and Dallas takes a 34-0 lead, and at this point the game is really over, Brent, but the Chicago Bears, as energetic as they are trying like crazy to get back in the ball game. Avellini throws the ball here. It's overthrown. Charlie Waters picks it off. His third interception of the game, by the way, which ties an NFL record in the postseason play. Avellini trying to get back. The Bears haven't given up here yet, trailing 37-0. He goes up on top, hits Steve Schubert, and the game ends that way. Dallas 37, Chicago 7.
And so, Phyllis, the Dallas Cowboys now go into the NFC Championship game.
They did play very well, if I might say so myself. And while nearly everyone was expecting a classic match in running styles between Dallas's Tony Dorsett and Chicago's Walter Payton, as Irv pointed out, Robert Newhouse was quietly piling up the yardage, 16 carries for 80 yards, plus key first downs for the Cowboys. Paul Hornung spoke with him after the game.
Bears 7, the Cowboys completely outclassing the young Chicago Bears. And one of the big guns for Dallas, 16 carries, 80 yards, was Robert Newhouse. And boy, in the first half, I never saw a better display offensively and defensively for the Cowboys.
Well, you know, going into the game, we knew we had to move the ball on the ground. And, you know, with a lot of talk about Dorsett out there, you know, I knew they were going to just sort of leave the mill open, so I just tried to take advantage of it.
You sure did. Cut back, made a few real nice cutting back against the grain, Bob, and you're built so low to the ground, you can do that pretty easily.
Well, yeah, they showed us, you know, it was a quick hitting play, and they looped out and shut that hole off, so, you know, I had to go somewhere, and I didn't want to go down right then, so it worked out all right.
I also noticed Tony Dorsett scored a couple of the touchdowns right behind you.
Well, you know, I have a lot of key blocks out there, and, you know, sometimes I don't make my block, you know, the play doesn't go anywhere, so I had to get to safety, and he came up there, and all Tony had to do was jump off my back, so I was there to get him.
How about the offensive line? You got to say something about them. They were just simply fantastic.
Well, I think this is one of the better games our offensive line had all year. And this time of the season, you know, your line got to be ready and your back's got to be ready to hit off those blocks. So we had it keyed up today, and I think we're ready.
So, no matter who wins the Minnesota-Los Angeles game, the championship game for the NFC next Sunday will be played in Dallas. And again, our coverage will begin at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, in the first half of the Minnesota-Los Angeles game, the Vikings have come on strong. And remember that they have beaten the Rams 3 consecutive times in playoff competition. Here now is Lee, who has replaced the injured Fran Tarkenton, going to Rashad, who has had a sensational year for the Vikings, down to the Ram 31-yard line. Now here is Lee going to Miller, and this is great hustle here by White on the fumble. He gets over and recovers from Minnesota, and that kept the scoring drive alive. Chuck Foreman, the all-purpose back, number 44, barging in. It was 7-0. Los Angeles ball now. Pat Hayden trying to rally the Rams, and goes to Terry Nelson over the middle. And the tight end gets down to the 20-yard line. Nelson with a good year kept Charlie Young on the bench. Now they want to go on the screen play. And
you'll find our name is known. You can trust a Delco. Thanks, Delco. Delco Freedom Battery. When things are getting thick and you want to start real quick, you can trust a Delco. Thanks, Delco. Delco Freedom Battery. the starting's tough, you can trust a Delco. Thanks, Delco. Delco Freedom Battery. Delco Freedom. Thanks, Delco.
When you come to Occidental for life insurance, you're coming to us.
When you come to Transamerica Insurance to protect your home or business, you're coming to us.
When you come to Transamerica Title for title insurance on your home, you're coming to us.
We're Transamerica, the people in the pyramid. We serve you through many different companies, but we stand for just one thing: first-rate service at a fair price. From every Transamerica company, every time.
Inside this new Firestone radial tire is an improved steel cord with 5 million miles of developmental testing. Where once we used 5 strands, we now use 10 strands of steel. 7 around 2, wrapped by 1. A cord construction so important, Firestone named the tire for it. 7, 2, 1. The new steel-belted radial 721. Now, from Firestone.
Of all the men who have ever walked onto a football field, no man has ever scored 40 points in one game except one. One afternoon in 1929, he ran and kicked his way into professional football history. It was Ernie Nevers. He left his mark, but someday somebody will break it, because records are goals, not monuments. Football has many records, and they're all here waiting for you at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Don't miss it.
Hi, this is Pat Summerall. I'm looking at a sample copy of the official Super Bowl 12 game program that we'll be using when CBS Television brings you the exclusive coverage of Super Bowl 12 on January the 15th from New Orleans. This program will have scouting reports, photos and lineups for both teams, a week-by-week review of the entire 77 season, plus a special section featuring the most valuable players from the past 11 Super Bowls. For your souvenir copy, send $250 to Super Bowl 12, Winona, Minnesota, 55987. Allow 6 weeks for delivery. This is a souvenir that the whole family will enjoy.
Welcome back to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Minnesota Vikings leading the Los Angeles Rams 7-0. I'm Vin Scully along with Alex Hawkins. And I guess the first big surprise of the half, considering the weather, there were no turnovers for either side.
That was a surprise. That's what surprised me. The Rams are getting away from what they do well, just running the ball at Minnesota. I'm watching McCutcheon gain almost 90 yards, but no score for the Rams.
When they got down close, they went to the pass, and they've also gone to end arounds. And so it is 7-0 Minnesota as the Rams will kick off. And coming up to receive it, Manfred Moore at the 10 to the 25. Brought down as he got across the 30-yard line. And so Manfred Moore brings it out across the 30, and the Vikings put it in play. The Vikings have had just one drive so far, but it was the one they used to go for the touchdown. And on that touchdown drive, there was one key fumble. Robert Miller had caught a pass and started a scamper and fumbled, but it was recovered by Sammy White. And that's been a very big play for Minnesota, that recovery by White. First and 10 from the 33. White is inside Rashad in a slot left. As you can see, the Vikings have gone to clean jerseys. And of course, Chuck Foreman is not going to stay clean anyway very long. Jack Reynolds making the tackle. There he is. Since returning October the 24th, the Rams won 5 straight with Jack at middle linebacker, only to lose at Washington. So 2nd and 9 from the 34. For the Vikings in new white uniforms, Sammy White in a slot left inside Rashad. And Lee fakes once and throws low, intended for Sammy White. And a group of Rams over there to defend. It looked like it might be a little release to Robert Miller, but he went to White, which is not a bad idea. Sammy has caught 9 touchdown passes this year, Hawk.
Good rush by Cody Jones that time. Kind of rushing a little bit. Isaiah Robertson over there interfering a little bit with Sammy White.
3rd and 9 for Minnesota. Bob Lee is 5 for 8 for 57 yards. The Rams have been able to get to him only once, however. Though the Vikings up front have done a good job keeping the Ram rush away from Bob Lee. Rashad is left. Bob Grimm is wide right. Sammy White in a slot inside Grimm. Lee going down the middle, no good, intended for Sammy White with Pat Thomas and Nolan Cromwell over there to defend.
Ball off target a little bit. White had room to make the reception that time. Look at Thomas. He's behind Thomas a little bit. Cromwell doesn't quite get over there far enough. If the ball had been on the money, he would have had it, and who knows from then on.
So Neil Claybo will be kicking from his only 20-yard line, and for the Rams, Cullen Bryant and Billy Waddy. Bryant number 32, Waddy number 80. Claybo averaging just under 40 yards a punt. 7-0 Minnesota. Just the start of the third quarter. The winner goes to Dallas. And Claybo gets it away. Cullen Bryant decides not to pick it up, and it goes out of bounds at the Ram 25-yard line, where they will put it in play 1st and 10 from their own 25. A reminder, next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Central and Pacific, the best of the CBS Sports Spectacular, and they've got some best, too. Memorable moments by Nadja Comaneci, Leon Spinks fight, the Belmont motorcycle jump-off from Houston, Pocono 500, Monzon Valdez for the World Middleweight Championship, World Cup skiing, World's Strongest Men competition, the Stuntmen competition, and more. I'll say the best. 1st and 10 from the 25. Second man is McCutcheon, grabbed by Alan Page as he goes to the 30-yard line. Big double H right there to get him. This Viking team has set 2 Viking records: fewest opponents' first downs and fewest opponents' passes. 2nd and 5 from the 30. McCutcheon, and he ran right into a pack, and the first man was Jeff Seaman. Looked like he went away from the block. Capoletti was leading in one direction, but Lawrence peeled off. And of course, as soon as he left his blocker, he was wide open.
Once again, you got to hand it to those Vikings. They came in after 14 games, giving up about 160 yards rushing. All the teams were doing well against them, but no points today for the Rams. They've made the plays when they have to. It's a team with a lot of character when it comes playoff time, as evidenced by the 12 playoffs they've been in.
3rd and 4 from the 31 for the Rams. 7-0 Minnesota. And Hayden throws one no good at the feet of Bobby Bryant. It looked like it was intended for McCutcheon. Alan Page putting on a lot of heat on Hayden, but McCutcheon had fallen down. And so Hayden walks off the field having completed 4 passes, thrown 1 for an interception. He's 4 out of 10. Glenn Walker will be punting from his 20. And Manfred Moore, all alone on his 35, will be the single safety man for Minnesota. We'll see if the Vikes are coming. They can't quite get through, and Walker gets it away. Moore from his 35. He spun away from Cromwell, but spun right into the grasp of Rod Phillips, who brought him down. So the Minnesota Vikings have pretty good field position, and they're leading the Los Angeles Rams 7-0 with 12:24 in the third quarter.
Know what I put on before shopping? My glasses. I look at labels. For 100% natural, easy washing denim jeans, I look for
the seal of cotton.
For soft, thirsty towels,
the seal of cotton.
For shirts that are cotton comfortable, plus no ironing,
the seal of cotton.
For sheets that mean sleeping comfort, whenever comfort matters, I look for the seal of cotton. The more cotton, the better you feel.
Introducing a new 1978 Ford Granada, the ESS. Can you tell it from this impressive $20,000 Mercedes 280 SE? Granada, Mercedes, Granada, Mercedes, Granada, Mercedes. The new Ford Granada ESS. See how close you can come to the look of a $20,000 Mercedes at the price of a Granada. When America needs a better idea, Ford puts it on wheels.
Next Sunday, January 1st, the NFC Championship game from Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys against the winner of this game with the NFL Today, starting it all at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Dallas looks strong today, huh?
They sure did. 1st and 10 from the Viking 44. Oh, Robert Miller is going to be guilty, and they'll have to bring that play down. Foreman can run from here to Yucaipa, and they're going to call it back. Robert Miller was so quick off the gun, it was obvious. Number 35, and that spoils that play and that run. Watch him. There he goes.
Way offsides there as a lead blocker. There's no use hurrying when you're on the wrong road. You got up there way too quick. Anticipating, he cheated as well as that. He was there about the time the ball was snapped for his lead block. And it'll all be brought down, or brought back, rather.
Offense, illegal motion.
So Robert Miller, guilty of an early start, beating the count, and he was picked off easily. So it'll be 1st and 15, moving the ball to the 39-yard line. 7-0 in favor of Minnesota. Robert Miller out of Kansas, number 5 draft choice in '75. Only 24 years old, playing in place of the injured Brent McClanahan. On the Rams sidelines, another great ball carrier, Lawrence McCutcheon, drying off his hands, waiting for an opportunity to try and get the Rams even. 1st and 15 from the Viking 39. White in a slot left inside Rashad. Chuck Foreman. Not this time. Jack Youngblood, Jim Youngblood, Dave Elmendorf. Chuck Foreman has now carried the ball 15 times for 36 yards. The going is difficult. McCutcheon, the other great runner in the game, has carried for 95 yards. So 2nd and 15 from the 39. Another slot left. White inside Rashad. Stu Voigt on the right side. Robert Miller grabbed by Jim Youngblood and slides across the 45-yard line.
Minnesota's approaching this second half, and as well as they did the first half after that first drive, as I've got 7 points, you've got none. Before I can put any more up there, you're going to have to time it.
They're holding on to the ball with 11:15 in the 3rd quarter. The Vikings, the first time they got their hands on the ball, with Bud Grant looking on, were able to drive for the touchdown, and it is the difference in the game. 3rd and 9. The ball on the Viking 45-yard line. Slot right, and Grimm with Sammy White inside him on the right. Chuck Foreman across midfield, and the Rams stack him up before he can get to the first down marker. Pat Thomas among others.
As you see it right here, it can't quite get enough. He's running off the right side, just a basic football play. Minnesota has been used to playing in inclement conditions and bad weather field conditions. They're doing the same thing. They know what they can do well. Just run straight at him. He came up short on the first, on the 3rd down. It's most exciting thing about this, seeing if the punters are going to be able to keep their feet when they kick the ball.
Right. And Neil Claybo will have to do it right now. Pat Thomas did a good job of fighting off a block by Sammy White, who is only 189, so that helps stack up the play. Cullen Bryant all alone on his 10. Neil Claybo will be kicking from the Viking 43. On the snap, he got it away. I think they're going to call roughing the kicker, and they will, on Jackie Wallace. They're going to call roughing the kicker on the ex-Viking, Jackie Wallace, number 20, and the official twice tried to get the flag out of his pocket, and he couldn't do it.
He certainly did. There was contact. Look at him now. Watch
Come
the official.
on, flag. Get out of there,
You lose
flag.
him a little bit. He puts it back in his pocket and then decides on the second guess to go ahead and throw it. There was contact.
So there's another big play. The so-called roughing the kicker. Here's the announcement on the roughing the kicker. Ironically, it would be an ex-Viking, Jackie Wallace, who charged him.
In recent weeks, there's been so much heat on officials, though, they're going to look at everything twice before they decide to call it.
Running into the kicker, number 20. 1st down.
So Jackie Wallace, who is in 2 Super Bowls, one with Minnesota, the other with Baltimore, 5-year man out of Arizona, guilty of the infraction. And so the Vikings keep possession. That could be a big play now as they hold on instead of giving up the ball to the Rams. The line of scrimmage would be the 42-yard line of the Rams. 1st and 10. Rashad wide right. Sammy White goes left. In motion is Foreman. Lee under a rush. Throws off the hands of Chuck Foreman. Jim Youngblood was there to defend.
Boy, he's a money player, Chuck Foreman. 2 playoff games last year. He rushed for over 100 yards in both of them.
He scored the only touchdown today. He has played 7 games in his career against the Rams and has scored 5 touchdowns against them. 3 rushing and 2 on passes. In postseason games against the cream of the crop going into this game, he has rushed for 669 yards. So when the chips are down, look for double 4s. 2nd and 10 from the 42. Chuck Foreman. Cody Jones had the first grip as he just got by Jack Youngblood and points up Charles Goodrum. They call him Goody, number 68. He's playing hurt and playing well, and it was Goodrum who started it by banging heads with Jack Youngblood. So 3rd and 5. The Vikings getting a big break with Jackie Wallace guilty of running into the kicker. Vikings leading 7-0, 9-14 in the 3rd quarter.
Everybody.
3rd and 5. Chuck Foreman, and holding on for dear life is Jack Reynolds at the ankle. That is very close to the first down. Ben Dreith and company will let us know. No sense guessing. It's tough enough to even figure out the yardage.
Seems like the whole game's been played right in the middle of the field, doesn't it?
We mentioned earlier they had a high school game here a week ago Saturday night, and it rained that night. It has been raining here in Los Angeles really since yesterday, so the field was in bad shape for openers. It would appear that they are short, and they are. That far.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Bud Grant didn't go away from his pattern and go for the first down.
Grant is talking and sending in Dennis Swilley and Craig. So they have 2 tight ends in there, Craig and Voigt, and they'll be going for it. Stu Voigt and Steve Craig now come in, along with Dennis Swilley, another big guy. So the Rams tried 4th and 1 almost in the same spot and didn't make it in the first quarter. Let's see about the Vikings.
That's right.
And Swilley is on a wing. It'll be Foreman. And it would appear he made it.
Once again, the blocks of Steve Riley and Charles Goodrum on that left side. As you see the Rams all taking the inside rush there. Lead blocker out in front, and Foreman somehow finds a way, doesn't he?
And boy, there is now the difference in the ball game in one respect can be pinpointed right there. The Rams had a 4th and 1 and couldn't make it. The Vikings have a 4th and 1 and do, and it is 1st and 10 Minnesota on the Ram 31-yard line. 7:57 in the 3rd quarter. Lee throwing to Robert Miller, and Pat Thomas hanging on. And boy, Miller took a pretty good shot from Jack Reynolds and still was able to move on. Take another look at Robert Miller playing for the injured Brent McClanahan.
They flooded his zone over there that time. Put 3 men in the area. Bob Lee throwing just about as safe a pass as you're going to be able to throw. As you see, Miller just wide open there. Does a nice job there. Avoiding the tackle, Pat Thomas, dragging him for a couple yards there.
Evidently a flag down in the mud, which we couldn't pick off, so we'll listen to Ben Dreith. Spot the ball on the 41-yard line.
Offensive holding, number 73.
So that would be Ron Yeri of Minnesota, guilty of holding. The flag went down, and it was just swallowed up by the mud. 1st and 20 on the Ram 41-yard line. We have 7:44 left in the 3rd quarter. Minnesota leading 7-0. They have been leading since the first time they got their hands on the ball in the first quarter. Slot left, White inside Richard. Chuck Foreman. Well, Foreman picks up a couple. A lot of people down there. Probably the first one to get him was Fred Dreyer. And Bob Lee again drying off his hand. Bob Lee came into this game having been intercepted 4 times. The one thing you don't expect Bob Lee to do is run with the ball. He has carried the ball 12 times this year, and he owes the league. He's a -8 yards. He's in hock. There's Chuck Knox, who must feel like a guy who's come up a buck short so far. 2nd and 17 from the Ram 38. And it is Robert Miller. And he squirts, which is a pretty good verb to apply to this game today. Robertson, Cromwell, among others. Robert Miller, charged with a big responsibility of replacing Brent McClanahan. McClanahan had scored 3 touchdowns and had been a workhorse, and now it's Robert Miller in the big game playing for him. On the sidelines, quietly alone with his thoughts, Joe Namths. 3rd and 10. Foreman. Foreman across the 30-yard line. At the bottom, number 58, Isaiah Robertson, along with Fred Dreyer.
Both the Vikings and the Rams staying pretty basic defensively. 4-man front. I think it's interesting, since you've seen so much 3-man front, Vin, this year, that 8 of the teams who went to the playoffs, 6 of them use a 4-man line. Only 2 started out using the 3-man line.
It looks like it's the new moment as we see Neil Claybo coming in. Claybo this year has kicked 19 punts inside the 20-yard line, and of course that's what he's going to try and do now to keep the Rams bottled up. Cullen Bryant all alone on the 10. He angles for the sidelines, and it will hit and go into the end zone. So Claybo unable to hit out of the coffin corner, runs it through for the touchback, and the Rams will take over. 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. 5 minutes and 26 seconds left to go in the 3rd quarter, and it's the way it's been since the early going. Vikings 7, Rams nothing.
Thank you.
Would you like a magazine?
For a chance que je nutna, ale nedelegitation.
Can you imagine how big and cold this world would be if we didn't have airplanes to jet people together, almost at a moment's notice, to talk, to argue, to disagree, to agree, together, face to face.
But I believe that our differences can be resolved.
This is what Boeing is all about, getting people together.
On January 8th, CBS Sports tips off its NBA regional coverage, with Boston taking on Philadelphia, Chicago going against Denver, Los Angeles tangling with Indiana, and New Orleans at Portland. That's January 8th for NBA regional action.
Well, Jack Youngblood and the Rams defense stopped the Vikings, and now Los Angeles takes over. 1st and 10 from their own 20. Jackson left and Waddy right. The running backs are McCutcheon and Capoletti back of Hayden. Capoletti with McCutcheon putting a block on McNeil, but as he's doing that, Jim Marshall came over and knocked him down. Jim Marshall, number 70. What a story. He's had 18 years in this league since he came out of Ohio State, and at 39 going on 40, he has announced he will play next year.
Isn't that incredible?
It sure is.
Started out with Cleveland. Didn't miss a game with Cleveland then.
He has played 251 consecutive games, 239 with the Vikings. That makes it 2nd and 12 from the 18. Hayden going to dump it off to Capoletti. To the 20. Hit by Matt Blair and skidding out of bounds. He tried to turn and get upfield. Jeff Seaman finally just took a sleigh ride on top of him.
The Vikings haven't been covering the Flair men, not in the first half, but Pat Hayden, for some reason or other, has not gone to him.
Pat Hayden normally calls his own plays. That was a great deal of discussion here in Los Angeles. When Joe Namths started the season in Atlanta and the Rams lost, then Hayden came in, and finally, Chuck Knox said, Hayden is a Rhodes Scholar. He is now an experienced quarterback. He calls him himself. 3rd and 8 from the 22. 7-0 Minnesota. Both backs release. And Hayden is going to go down. And the man who applied the heat was Alan Page. And then for good measure, White came along to hammer him, James White. But it was Alan Page who really did it. Double eights. He's probably still smoking over that encroachment penalty called against him in the second quarter.
And no receivers open downfield. Get the police action there by Greg Horton.
Page just jerked him down from behind.
Say what you want to, that was a bigger loss to Washington than you might imagine for the Rams. It's a whole lot better going into a playoff game fresh off a win than it is off a loss and keeping the momentum together.
That's a good point, Al. Deep now for the Vikings will be Manfred Moore, and Glenn Walker kicking out of his end zone. And Moore will get his face wet as he looks up in the rain at his own 42. Jackie Wallace brings him down just shy of the 40-yard line. So Jackie Wallace, who figured prominently in running into the kicker, and there is Bill Simpson, the injured free safety, on crutches on the sidelines trying to tutor Nolan Cromwell. 7-0 Minnesota.
This Christmas card was sent to you by the people at Miller High Life. Merry Christmas.
Sally Ann! I struck oil! We can get married now.
But, Billy Joe, you are dressed for a Del Rio dogfight. You'd sure look better in Hager slacks. Or a Hager sport coat and slacks. Even a Hager vested suit. A variety of outfits you don't have to be rich to afford. Oh, Billy Joe, you look like $1 million.
Make that two.
Billy
Hager,
Joe.
because looking good makes you feel good.
The Minnesota Vikings leading 7-0 as Manfred Moore returned. The Vikings were furious on the far sidelines, and leading the battle cry was veteran Jim Marshall. The officials huddled with Bud Grant and with Marshall. Nothing else was said, and play back in. 1st and 10 on the Ram 41. Robert Miller got out across the 35-yard line. Dave Elmendorf and Jack Reynolds. Here's Reynolds. Those gold numbers stand out. The Vikings' white uniforms, however, are starting to make their numbers disappear.
I don't even know whether they bother to change jerseys at halftime, but it doesn't take but about 4 plays and you're back where you were the first half.
2nd and 4, the ball just inside the Ram 35-yard line. 3:31 left to go in the third quarter. 7-0 Minnesota. Moore in motion, and Foreman runs into Larry Brooks, and on his own power picks up a yard or two. So Robert Lee, Bob Lee, Fran Tarkenton, of course, out with the bad leg. Then Tommy Kramer got some headlines against San Francisco, which earned him a start against Oakland. But when the chips are down against Detroit to get here, and now against the Rams, it's the 9-year veteran Bob Lee. 3rd and 2 from the 32. And it's Robert Miller climbing over people for the first down. Fred Dreyer at the bottom. We told you that the Vikings seem to be very irritated down on the field, and down there is Nick Bonaconti. Nick, do you have any idea what the Viking line was all about?
Well, Vince, Alan Page and Jim Martian are complaining that the Rams are holding them on every play. And they went up to Ben Drayton and started screaming in their face, and went over to Bud Grant and started telling him, and Grant got Drayton over to the sideline and said to start calling the holding penalties. Back to you, Vince.
Okay, Nick. And, of course, we could see Marshall, who is absolutely livid. Bud Grant, implacable as usual, unflappable. 1st and 10 on the Ram 29. In motion is Sammy White. Here comes Chuck Foreman. And Jack Reynolds has him by the waist.
Not a classic game at all, is it?
No, indeed. It's a mud bath. It is a shame. 14 big games, everything on the line. They've been working since last July. And of all places, in a city that has been worrying about a drought, they come up into a rainstorm.
What is it, though, that George Allen said this time of year comes the playoffs? You don't win with talent, you win with character.
There's a lot of it down there right now. 2nd and 8 from the 27-yard line of Los Angeles. Rashad, White, and in motion Robert Miller. And Chuck Foreman over the right side and across the 20-yard line, and he might have made the first down. Depends on where they mark it. He's picked it up. Foreman doing it almost on his own. Marvelous.
I'm telling you, the guy just seems to find the open holes, and he can make the most out of it. He can find holes when other backs can't. That's why he's a Pro Bowler.
Robertson and Cromwell rolling him up, but not before he rolled up the first down. So a remarkable performer, Chuck Foreman. 5-year veteran out of Miami. He has rushed for over 1,000 yards 3 years in a row. 1st and 10 inside the 20. And Foreman again. And at the last minute, he fumbles the ball. And it is picked up by Monty Jackson, who fumbles. And we'll see if the whistle had blown it dead.
I believe it had.
Did.
I believe it had, Ben.
We'll take another look as Lee hands it off to Foreman.
The ball should have been blown right there. That's right. That's a good call on the official's part.
Monty Jackson trying to give it away, I think, to Elmendorf, and Elmendorf finally falling on it. Well, the whistle nullified all of that. The Vikings, known for their turnovers, they were minus 18. And yet, the only loss of the ball today was the interception by Minnesota's Nate Allen. The Vikings fumbled once. Robert Miller fumbled, recovered by Sammy White. Robert Miller with Sammy Johnson in there to spell Foreman. Johnson leading a block for him. You look down on the field, and you see Ahmad Rashad, and his uniform is unsullied by the mud. We've got 3 quarters in the books. They're coming down to the last 15, 7-0 Minnesota.
Huddlemeyer, Mr. Huddlemeyer, Mr. Huddlemeyer, Mr. Huddlemeyer, Mr. Huddlemeyer, excuse me, but I understand you've reserved an Avis car in Buffalo. Well, not only is your car going to be there, but even now Avis is checking the engine, tires, even the ashtrays. Nobody beats our car care program. So relax. Avis wants you to enjoy your trip in the air and on the ground. Oh, good.
We try hard, Avis. Avis, we don't know another way.
Have a nice trip.
Huh. To get ahead these days, you got to keep on your toes. So I've got something to keep my competition flat-footed. Sunoco's penny pinching pump. It has 190, the gas that's made to sell below my regular, and 220, the gas that sells below my premium. So if your car runs on regular or premium, my pump can save you money on quality gas. Listen, if I don't want you to go right by me, I got to do right by you. Sunoco's penny pinching pump can fill up your tank for less. That's my way of being very friendly.
The picture tells you a story immediately that the wide receivers for Minnesota are playing a decoy game. Ahmad Rashad, number 28, Sammy White, 85, and their uniforms, well, it looks like they just arrived in the ballpark.
And the Rams are playing right into the hands of the Vikings, who are so used to playing on fields like this, or muddy or frozen fields or snowy fields and all that, and they're allowing the Vikings to make them play their game.
3rd and 4. The ball is on the Ram 12-yard line. White in a slot left inside Rashad. In motion goes Robert Miller. Down to just shy of the 1-yard line.
Dingelhoff. Let's watch the center's block here. Closes it off Reynolds, and the hole opens up there. Goodrum with a good block there. The rest of it just Miller. Good job there. Coming off the bench playing like that, that's what you got to have. Class players. Come on and contribute something.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That's why I didn't say. Yeah, Chuck Foreman. Chuck Foreman banged up on that last carry. Very slowly getting up. Foreman, who has been carrying the ball for 16 times and 88 yards. And it would be, in fact, we check the numbers and make that 26 carries for Chuck Foreman. And he's paying the price, and he'll have to come out. Sammy Johnson, number 48, has come in to spell Chuck Foreman. 2 tight ends, Stu Voigt and Craig. Steve Craig on one side. Robert Miller and Sammy Johnson back of Robert Lee. Johnson. No see. Well, Sammy Johnson, who came to Minnesota in the deal that sent Jim Lash to San Francisco, giving Foreman a rest. We look across the field, and Foreman does not appear to show any signs of injury, nor does he look like he's coming right in.
Put the Rams in real trouble if they allow a score right here. They haven't been able to do too much outside of 2 first-quarter drives against the Vikings. 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter would be just almost impossible to overcome with that field conditions.
2nd and goal from the 1. Sammy Johnson, he's in there. Sammy Johnson scoring. The big guy, 6'1", 226 out of North Carolina. Bunches it over.
You've heard so much about Ed White, but they're getting the block of the day out of Charles Goodrum and Mick Tingelhoff. Steve Riley on that left side. All afternoon, the Vikings have been successful there. They went there when they needed it.
And Los Angeles is even gloomier than the weather now in the light rain. The Vikings have punched out a 13-0 lead. Here is Fred Cox trying to make it 14-zip with 13:59 left to go in the game. It's down and up and good. So Fred Cox picks up 2 more points, 1,359 in his great career. But what is more important, the Vikings have picked up some more points. The NFL Today on CBS will return after this word from your local station.
Major Winchester's low opinion of his buddies has the MASH compound buzzing tomorrow night on CBS.
Minnesota leading 14-0. Fred Cox ready to kick off. Wendell Tyler is deep. He has Jodat and Cullen Bryant. And Minnesota recovers that squibber. And so the Vikings, who had just taken all kinds of pages try the onside kick, and they get away with it. The Rams were not looking for it. That was Rick Nuzum who had a shot at the ball, couldn't hold it, and the Vikings recovered. So Minnesota leading 14-0, and they've really put it to the Rams with that play.
Came in here heavy underdogs today. Nobody gave the Vikings too much credit, and all week long, that's all we've heard from the Minnesota people. They're ready to play. Maybe that week in Tulsa has helped them. With all the confusion around Christmas, the Rams were here at home, happened to fool with their families and all that on Christmas Day.
First and 10. You do indeed. Minnesota very much in control of this one now at the 44-yard line. Let's take another look at the onside kick. Fred Cox came up, squirts it off to his left. The nearest Ram is number 51, Rick Nuzum. And there is Nuzum trying to recover. Battles and falls, and it squirts away. And the ball very much alive, and the Vikes recover.
That's the last thing Nuzum expected, that ball coming at him. He was up there to try to take out the kicker real quick.
There is Nuzum, who had a thumb operation a little while ago, but is playing and is very much a downcast figure. 2nd and 6. The ball on the 48-yard line of Minnesota. Nowhere.
You can almost bet the Vikings going to keep it on the ground all the way now. Bob Lee going to play 5-card stud. Wait for Ace's back. The clock's still running.
12:55 left in the ball game. Minnesota scored in the first quarter. Foreman punched it over. They scored again in the fourth quarter. Sammy Johnson climbed a hill to get it in. And the Vikings are doing to the Rams what they have done in the past. They're trying to knock them out of the playoffs. It would be 4 for 4 if they do it. And they're leading 14-0. 3rd and 5 from the 48. Chuck Foreman across midfield, still can get across the 45-yard line of Los Angeles. Tacklers just slipping off him. Jim Youngblood among others.
You can tell he's hurt. He's playing hurt too.
He is really beaten up.
Boy, you got to give him a lot of credit. He has been such an outstanding performer for the Vikings.
Chuck had carried 26 times. There's Tingelhoff saying, get him out, he's hurting.
You can't say enough about it, Chuck Foreman.
So Sammy Johnson comes in, and Chuck Foreman will be going out. On Foreman's 26th carry, that's when he was racked up right near the goal line. He has now carried the ball 28 times for 96 yards, and he has paid dearly for every yard.
He has that indeed. Watch him as he hits that left side where they've had so much success. Jack Reynolds playing off the blocker. Missing the tackle right there. Just poor tackling by the Rams. Elmendorf also missing. 3 missed tackles on the Rams.
Pat Hayden listening to the messages from upstairs. Those messages that have not paid off downstairs. 1st and 10 from the Ram 45. Sammy Johnson and Robert Miller. And it's Sammy Johnson. And Jack Reynolds meets him right at the line of scrimmage and brings him down at the 45-yard line. Going way back, the Rams had a 4th and 1 on the 32-yard line of Minnesota. They didn't make it. The crowd did not want the field goal. So the Rams went for the first down, didn't make it. The Vikings then marched all the way for a touchdown. The Rams then had a big drive, and it looked like surely they would tie it up, only to see Pat Hayden throw in the end zone, and it was intercepted by Nate Allen. The Vikings here in the fourth quarter have punched it over, and they're leading 14-0. 11 minutes and 3 seconds left to go in the game. Robert Miller across the line for a yard or 2. Jim Youngblood, Jack Reynolds, Isaiah Robertson. So one of the two will be going to Dallas next week. And most people in the United States were willing to wager it would be Los Angeles. Everybody but the people from Minnesota.
I'll be truthful with you. It came as a surprise to me.
The same two teams met here in October on a Monday night, and the Rams destroyed the Vikings 35-3.
And that's something, though, but it's playoff time. There's 3 seasons, the preseason, which no one seems to care about, and then the playoff games, and then finally that last season is going to be the Super Bowl. That's another dimension altogether.
3rd and 8 out of the 43-yard line. Inside the 40 go the Vikes. 10 minutes and 6 seconds left to go in the ball game. And so on a 4th down and 3, the Vikings will give up the ball. The Rams will have Billy Waddy, Cullen Bryant, and Dwight Scales going back. Neil Clabo tried one coffin corner kick and got it into the end zone. We'll see what he does this time. There, the deep men. The middle man is Waddy. On the right is Cullen Bryant. On the left, Dwight Scales.
I think it's worth pointing out, since the Vikings do have the ball, and we have just a minute before they turn the ball over to the Rams, none of the Rams' outside receivers have caught a ball today. Fact is, I don't recall, but a couple times they've even tried to throw to their wide receivers.
You might be interested also in the note that the Vikings have now run 22 consecutive running plays. And in the third quarter, the Vikings held the ball 12 minutes and 10 seconds. The Rams had it for 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Rams have allowed them to play their game, though.
Neil Clabo angling for the corner. And it goes into the end zone. So the Rams down by 2 touchdowns with 9 minutes and 21 seconds left to go in the ball game. Will put it in play 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. And the Minnesota Vikings 14. The Los Angeles Rams 0.
This year, when you step out on the town, don't just drive. Take off in the 1978 Thunderbird. With its distinctive look and size, its Thunderbird quality and comfort. And it comes at a down-to-earth price of $58.08 with automatic transmission, power steering, power brakes, V8 and more. Flight test the 1978 Thunderbird. When America needs a better idea, Ford puts it on wheels.
I'm going in.
Why?
At least someone will know I tried. I suggest we let Shockley drive right into the city. We clear the streets along his route, deploy our men, and create an impassable barrier. A gauntlet, if you will. He will have a chance.
The odds are 100 to 1 they won't make it, but they're willing to take that chance. Clint Eastwood, The Gauntlet, rated R. Now playing everywhere.
On January 2nd, CBS Sports presents the Cotton Bowl with Heisman Trophy winner Earl Campbell leading the #1 ranked Texas Longhorns against the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. That's Monday, January 2nd.
9:21 left to go in the ball game. The Vikings 14, the Rams nothing. And for Los Angeles and Pat Hayden, a litany of frustration and perhaps yet another bead to be added to it. McCutcheon and Phillips are the running backs. And Hayden will send it up. And it's thrown to McCutcheon, no good. Jeff Seaman there to defend. The litany began back in 1969. In that overtime, in the playoff game, the Rams lost to Minnesota 23-20. In 1974, it was the Vikings 14 and the Rams 10. In 1976, it was the Vikings 24 and the Rams 13. And they're faced with that same prospect again. 2nd and 10 from the 20. Time left, 9:15. Hayden to Billy Waddy. And Jeff Wright nails him at the 25-yard line and pulls him back, but I think they'll spot it at the 25.
Vikings doing an incredible job today defending the Rams. They have had no receivers open downfield anywhere today. The entire afternoon. Pat Hayden dropping back, you see, not pressured whatsoever. Just good coverage by them.
Jeff Seaman goes out. Nate Allen comes in. So the Vikes set up against the pass. Harold Jackson wide right. Billy Waddy left. 3rd and 5 from the 25. 14-0 Minnesota. Eller trying to get at him. Hayden has time. Throwing complete to the tight end, Terry Nelson, and he is knocked out of bounds just shy of the midfield stripe at the Ram 49-yard line. Terry Nelson, the most successful Ram receiver, picks up 24.
And look at the little touch here by Pat Hayden. Puts it in there, and look at the catch. I think that ball might be deflected a little bit. Yes, it was. Nelson doing a good job to hold on to it that time. That's the kind of plays, if you're going to get yourself back in the ball game, you somehow have to make.
So 1st and 10 for the Rams. 8:28 left in the game. 14-0 Minnesota. Hayden is 7 for 14. A draw to McCutcheon. Doug Sutherland meeting the draw head-on, number 69, along with Matt Blair.
And Sutherland has played well all day long today. He really has.
There's Doug coming up out of the mud.
Well, with Eller and Marshall and Page, you don't hear too much about guys like Sutherland, but he has really played himself a fine ball game today.
Went to school in Wisconsin at Superior State, and he was an original draft choice of New Orleans back in 1970. All right, 2nd and 6 from the Viking 47. McCutcheon and Phillips. Hayden down the right side. He's got Harold Jackson at the 31-yard line, and Jackson is immediately wrapped up by Wright and Blair, but Harold Jackson finally gets his hands on the ball.
Just a little turn-in pattern, and you wonder somehow why didn't they do it a little earlier? The Rams had been sitting there trailing the whole game, and they just didn't open it up. It was almost like they're playing defensive offense. Now they're moving the ball because they're putting the ball in the air, and they're thinking offensive.
7:24 left in the game, 14-0 Minnesota. 1st and 10 on the Viking 31. McCutcheon behind Phillips, runs into Eller. Well, Lawrence McCutcheon, who has been the other side of the coin to Chuck Foreman, although he has not had the chance to carry the ball nearly as many times. Foreman has carried 29 times. McCutcheon, 16 carries, 101 yards, and Chuck Foreman, 101 yards in his 29 carries. 6:41 left in the game. Waddy is wide right. Jackson left. Phillips and McCutcheon back of Hayden. No good. Intended for Rod Phillips. And you immediately watch Phillips diving for the ball, and you wonder, where is John Cappelletti? What has happened to Cappelletti? Going into this game, Cappelletti had caught 6 touchdowns, but we have not seen him. It is Rod Phillips out there. Nate Allen back in again. 3rd and 7. Harold Jackson right. Waddy is left. Big play for Hayden. Time running out. Intended for Lawrence McCutcheon. And defending was Nate Allen. It was Allen who had one of the key interception in the end zone for Minnesota.
Hayden working against the zone there. That's Allen's coverage over there, and he, as you see right there, he covered it well. Nobody really open downfield. A wet field like this should favor the receivers in a passing game. I say it should.
The attendance, 71,039, 8,501 no-shows. So a lot of folks came out in bad weather to see it. Cappelletti is back in there now, and perhaps the whole year on the line for the Rams. They've got to keep the ball. And Hayden is going to keep it and gets away from Eller. And he's got the first down. He just made it when he got by Carl Eller. And hold everything, Rod Phillips there. And some of the Vikings looked like Phillips was trying to protect Hayden, and he had to push and shove a little bit.
Great job by Pat Hayden that time getting out of the trap. Big plays are made by big players. The rest of this game, you can pick out your winners.
Here's Eller slithering down his leg, and that was the key. Page couldn't get him from behind. Bryant couldn't block him, and he finally got the first down. 6 minutes and 1 second left to go from the Viking 20-yard line. 14-0 Minnesota. Waddy is wide right and Jackson left. Phillips and McCutcheon. Hayden looking down the middle, wobbly, kicked off by Paul Krause. And Krause to the 15, and down he goes. A big play by a very big name in Viking history, Paul Krause.
And I've been waiting for him to come across with that 79th interception that ties Emlyn Tunnell. I've been waiting all year as the all-time leading interceptor. Watch it right here. Hayden back in the pocket. Krause playing the free safety like he does so well and has so for so many years. His 79th interception of his career.
Even in a changing world, some things will never change, like the comfort of 100% cotton denim jeans. 100% cotton means soft, breathable comfort. And Wrangler makes them with a special no-fault process. They won't shrink, pucker, or wrinkle. They fit natural, fade natural, and stay neat, no matter where you take them. When you're looking at blue jeans, check the label. Make sure you're looking at 100% cotton denim.
Okay, Linda here's got to protect her family.
A woman?
Sure, a woman needs life insurance just as much as a man does. And this New York Life Defense has just the insurance plan to do it. Put the blitz on Linda's money problems. Block out her retirement worries. Come on, Linda, it's all yours now. Get a girl!
I've got it. Financial security.
Where the name of the game is life, there's New York Life.
Let's take another look at that key interception by Paul Krause.
And with Pat Hayden with all the money on the line, throws a Billy Kilmer pass, but whether it's foul or not had nothing to do with it. Paul Krause laying back there, read where he was throwing it well. Stepped in front of Waddy, and there you go.
1st and 10, Minnesota. They have come up with the 2 key interceptions by Nate Allen in the end zone, and now this one by Paul Krause. The Vikings have now made it 23 consecutive ground plays. They're not about to throw it up for grabs. Robert Miller, coming up out of the soup, carried the ball. 14-0 Minnesota. They scored in the first quarter. They have scored in the last quarter, and they have shut out the only NFL team to win all its games at home, the Los Angeles Rams. Bud Grant has evidently done it again. 2nd and 9.
A lot of credit goes to that man right there. I believe he has done an incredible job. No one really thinks that much of him as a quarterback, but somehow he seems to get the job done.
3rd and 10 for Bob Lee and the Vikings. Ahmad Rashad comes in that bright uniform that stands out like a beacon down there on the field. And you can see the time running out for the Vikings and against the Rams. Rashad wide left, and the other man, who with a pretty clean uniform, Sammy White, is in the slot left. But the workhorses, they're just mud men down there now, as they can't quite get the ball to the 20-yard line. Nolan Cromwell first made a push, and Dave Elmendorf brought him down. That's Chuck Foreman, and what a game he has played. Foreman has carried the ball 31 times. For Foreman to be such a workhorse, there's Dwight Scales, number 87. Foreman, against Detroit, carried 33 times for 156 yards. That was a season high for him, and he has come right back with 31 carries thus far today.
Right about now, you kind of look for your special teams to come up with a big play. You've seen George Allen's his Washington Redskins and Don Shula's Miami Dolphins and formerly the Baltimore Colts special teams come up with big ones, and that's the only way you're going to get back in the ball game right now.
And the one thing Minnesota is going to do, they will hold the ball as long as they can. The clock's still running, and Claybo will be kicking from his 10. It's a slippery runway, but he gets it off. And the ball gets away from Dwight Scales, and down he goes. Scott Stowell, number 55, made the tackle. So the Rams, with 3 minutes and 15 seconds left to go in the ball game, have it 1st and 10 on their own 30, and the Vikings are sitting on top of a 14-0 lead.
Up here, the wind can turn an entire ski slope into one big snowdrift. But you're going to take the mountain away from the storm and give it back to the skiers. Now comes Miller time. Time to head for the best tasting beer you can find. America's quality beer, Miller High Life.
If you've got the time, if you've got the time, we've got the beer, Miller beer.
From blazing heat to
to paralyzing cold, season after season, the J.C. battery has more power to start your car more dependably than any other car battery you can buy. And it never needs water. In fact, it's so dependable, it's warranted for as long as you own your car. If it ever fails to hold a charge, return it. We'll replace it, free. Only at J.C. Auto Centers or catalog desks. It's the last battery your car will ever need.
A reminder, next Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Sun Bowl from El Paso. Stanford versus LSU, each coming into the game with a record of 8-3.
That's going to be a good one, too. Good running back and a good quarterback in that game. A lot of other good players, too.
When we opened up the ball game today, we talked about the 49 game when the Eagles shut out the Rams 14-0, December the 18th in the rain. So you could say that history has come back to haunt Los Angeles. Hayden over the middle to McCutcheon or Nelson, and it split the difference and went into the mud.
What a shocked city this is going to be, huh, Vin?
Absolutely. The people here in Los Angeles were so sure that they were playing Dallas that one of the first questions that was asked Chuck Knox at a press conference Monday was, how do you feel you can stop Dallas? And Knox, they tell me, became furious and said, Dallas, we've got Minnesota. But that in itself might have summed up the problem that Knox and the Rams had. An inspired Minnesota club coming back to beat a team that had walloped them. No good and almost picked off. Bobby Bryant just missed it. The pass was intended for Harold Jackson. With 3 minutes and 7 seconds left, the Rams will look like that they are going to finish the year the way they started it. They opened up the year in Atlanta, and they figured it would be a breather. They were the heavy favorites, and Atlanta knocked them off. And now they finish up the year as a heavy favorite, somewhere around 9 or 10-point favorite against Minnesota, and it has been the Vikings 14-0. 3rd and 10 from the Los Angeles 31. 3:07 left. Jim Jodat is now in there with McCutcheon. The word on Capoletti, he just bone weary. And the pass is broken up. Big Jim Marshall got those hands up, and it was number 70, the veteran Marshall, who smothered the pass.
And that's where the wonderful experience comes in. What is it, 18 years he's been playing?
Right.
Big games are nothing new to him. He's been in 12 playoff games, 4 Super Bowls. There's where you look for it. Great job by Jim Marshall.
He was able to get away from Tom Mack and get up in the air to smother it. Glenn Walker will have to punt. 3 minutes and 3 seconds left. The offensive team is barely off the field now. Special units are there. The Vikings, however, are not sure about this. Seaman and Nate Allen Krause go back to midfield, but there's no real safety man. Walker will kick anyway. And it hits on the 40 and just about takes a divot as it stopped dead on the 38, like a poached egg. So the Minnesota Vikings, who left the cold of Minnesota to train in Tucson and ran into rain. Little did we know that that training in the rain has paid off today. You think Bud Grant could even predict the weather?
Rain on the desert, babe.
Friends, don't forget the 1978 CBS Sports Spectacular. Our January schedule, the WBC Light Heavyweight Championship, Cuello versus Parloff. The World Lightweight Championship, Duran and DeJesus. And there'll be Super Skates, Hollywood Stuntmen competition. Great show. Look for it. 1978, the CBS Sports Spectacular. 1st and 10 Vikings, and Robert Lee finding a dry spot. Not really. He just sits on it with 2:50.
They're playing calculated now, aren't they? They're going to go ahead and fall on it with 2 minutes and 50 seconds going.
And you go back and think about the Rams, who tried an end around with Terry Nelson, who tried the pass when they were grinding it out up the middle. And for Chuck Knox and the rest of the boys in blue, it looks like it'll be a long winter.
And there is some rumors around, there have been rumors all year around the Los Angeles Rams that Chuck Knox might be in a little trouble out here. And knowing Carroll Rosenblum and having played for him for 9 years, one thing he considers is winning it all. Not just your record. Knox can hardly be faulted. In 5 years, he's won 5 divisional championships, but in Carroll Rosenblum's eyes, that ain't good enough.
Well, early in the year, before the season even started, of course, was the big story that he was trying to go to Detroit, that the Rams blocked it, and then he was supposedly signed to a perpetuating 5-year contract. Every time you signed it, it renewed itself for 5 years, but I still haven't seen where he actually signed that yet.
Kind of like George Allen?
Yes, that's right. George Allen is unsigned. There are rumors, of course, emanating from St. Louis that Don Coryell and the Cardinals do not see eye to eye. So the coach's life is always a tough one, and especially when you are losing.
Well, like a friend of mine always said, coaches are meant to be fired because you're supposed to, the idea is to win it all. What are the 8 coaching jobs open already around the National Football League? And more to come, I understand.
Well, someone once said that football is played by the survivors, and here they are. In this stage of the NFC, the survivors, they came here in white uniforms. They are now the Minnesota Mudmen, and again, Bob Lee goes down, just eating up the clock. The Minnesota Vikings scored. Foreman scored from about 5 yards out in the first quarter. Sammy Johnson jumped over from 1 yard out in the fourth quarter, and in between the Rams just spun their wheels. They had one shot for a touchdown. Pat Hayden threw into the end zone and was picked off by Nate Allen. The Rams had a very important 4th and 1, the first time they had the ball in the opening sequence. Had they made the first down, it might have been a completely different story. But as it was, the Vikings not only stopped them, then it seemed that buoyed them up, that their confidence was sky high, that they were able to stop a team that had given them such a bad time in October, and the Vikings promptly drove the length of the field for the touchdown, and they have not surrendered it. So it has been a remarkable performance by the Minnesota Vikings, a great performance. For the Rams, a puzzling, sometimes bewildering, and mostly frustrating afternoon.
Well, in all truthfulness, the Rams have not played up to their capabilities this year. They've never put together 3 straight games back to back. It looked like during the last part prior to the Washington game, although they had won 5 in a row, some of them over weaker opponents, but on paper they're a powerful, powerful team, but they're on mud, not paper.
3rd and 17. Bob Lee just going through the motions. And for the Rams, that frustrating moment in any ball game, you're down, trying to get the ball, and time is running out. So the best thing you can do, call for timeout. So the Rams take a timeout. It'll be a kicking situation for the Vikings. 4th and 20, the ball on their 28-yard line. Neil Clabo will be asked to kick it out of there again, and he has done a good job.
The Rams are really forced into a position they almost have to go for the block this time to get themselves back in the ball game.
And I would say, in looking down at the field, if you go for the block, look for number 27, Pat Thomas. Clabo comes out for the moment. But Pat Thomas is usually the man. That's Cromwell and Dreyer, and there's little Pat. Pat Thomas is the guy, if he can get in there, he's the one who comes shooting for the block. Thomas from Texas A&M, little guy, he's 5'8", 180 pounds. He has done a fine job ever since Rod Perry went out with the bad thumb. All right, Neil Clabo will be kicking from his own 15-yard line. Cullen Bryant is all alone on the Ram 30. 2:42 left in the game. Thomas came in but couldn't get it. And Bryant at the 35, 40, 45. Cross midfield and down he goes. Sammy Johnson was the man who hit him from behind. So Cullen Bryant brings the ball into Viking territory with 2:31 left. A reminder, the premiere of Challenge of the Sexes will hit the air Sunday, January 8th, with Phyllis George and myself hosting. We sure enjoyed the battle between Virginia Wade and Vitas Gerulaitis, among others. There'll also be some water ski trick jumping, a motorcycle jump off. It'll be Sunday, January 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Challenge of the Sexes comes back for its 3rd year. 1st and 10 from the Viking 46. Hayden over the middle to McCutcheon at the 40 to the 35, and Hilgenberg wraps him up at the 35 and brings him down. And of course Hilgenberg didn't want McCutcheon to get up. He'd just as soon talk to him a while and kill more time. 1st and 10 from the 34. Rod Phillips goes to the left, and the pass up the middle to Terry Nelson, broken up by middle linebacker Jeff Seaman. And that'll put the brakes to the sweep hand. 2 minutes and 9 seconds left.
Trying to hit his backs coming out of the backfield, and those linebackers of the Vikings not going to hear anything to it. Coverage is excellent. They are well prepared for this game.
Terry Nelson had really been the only successful receiver. He has handled 4 for 65 yards.
Perhaps if they'd have done that a little earlier, hit those backs. Not now. They're looking for it.
The saddest words of tongue and pen. Those would read what might have been with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left. Hayden with both backs out. Lobs it to Rod Phillips. He's to the 30. And Hilgenberg hits him and brings him down. And we're coming to the 2-minute warning, and there it is. And it is raining a little bit harder. It has been a soggy day in Los Angeles, but somewhere in Minnesota, the sun is sure shining. Minnesota 14 and Los Angeles nada,
Go
senor.
Redheads. Go Redheads.
Last hand. 8 hours and 10 minutes. Fantastic.
Finally, we come to
9 hours and 12 minutes. Amazing.
Vicks Sinex long-acting nasal spray is amazing. It can quickly have you breathing as easily as someone with no congestion problem. And then it decongests up to 10 hours.
10 hours? Incredible.
The opera?
No, my nasal spray.
Vicks Sinex long-acting. Incredible.
Ford introduces Futura, a dramatic combination of styling and technology for 1978 and beyond. Futura, designed by computer modeling and aerodynamic testing. It can provide excellent fuel economy and room for 5 passengers as well. Futura, designed for 1978 and beyond. Realistically priced for today. See your Ford dealer for a personal test drive.
The timetable reads for Minnesota, 2 minutes from Dallas. 14-0 Vikings. 3rd down and 4. The ball is on the Viking 28-yard line. Dwight Scales wide right. Harold Jackson wide left. And the running backs are Phillips and McCutcheon. Hayden looked to McCutcheon, didn't have him open, and he takes off to the 15, and he'll go out of bounds at the 15-yard line to pick up the first down. 1:52 left. The Rams are down by 2 touchdowns, 14-0, 15 yards away.
And once again, the scrambling quarterback, Pat Hayden, not known for his scrambling ability, but how valuable an asset it is to have.
At the time, a little earlier, with about 7 minutes left to go in the ball game, he made a big scramble to beat Carl Eller and go for a first down, but only moments later, with the crowd roaring and thinking of a come from behind, then popped up the interception by Paul Krause. So with 1:52, Hayden has it 1st and 10 on the Viking 15. Pat trying to get in the end zone, looking and throwing in the end zone. No good, intended for Dwight Scales. Jeff Wright was right there with him.
Carl Eller refusing to let him get out of bounds or have any running room. All the experience. Watch Carl Eller, number 81. He's been around about 14 years, been in a lot of big games. Look at that. He knows how he can get hurt. He isn't about to let it happen. Hayden just overshot it altogether.
The only thing surprised me, Eller didn't get his hands up, but he might very well have had to keep him at his side to get some balance down there. Run on the deck of a ship at sea. It is 2nd and 10 from the 15 of Minnesota, but the Vikings are leading 14-0. Scales right, Jackson left, Phillips and McCutcheon, and Hayden going to put it up again. He releases to Phillips, and he is hammered by Matt Blair, and he could not get anywhere near the out-of-bounds line, so the clock still runs.
To a man, the Vikings linebackers have played an excellent game today. They really have played well. Their coverage has been just phenomenal all day. Very well coached, very well prepared for this game.
No time to huddle. Hayden again looking right and going deep, and it is caught by Terry Nelson. And again, he is on the field, so the clock keeps running. Terry Nelson, the only successful Ram receiver today. The tight end gets it to a 1st and goal with 1 minute and 6 seconds left. 14-0 Minnesota. Be 5 catches for Nelson. Hayden on a quick out to Harold Jackson. Touchdown. Bobby Bryant defending. Though it is 14-6 with 56 seconds left.
And hope springs eternal.
Well, the first thing you think of is the onside kick, which already burned the Rams.
You got to. Look at that. I'm kind of surprised Bobby Bryant didn't look for something like that, if nothing else, to stop the clock.
So Pat Hayden finally finds the end zone after a long, frustrating afternoon. And with 56 seconds left, he hits Harold Jackson for the touchdown. For Harold Jackson, the 7th touchdown pass he has caught this year. And they're mixing it up down there. Septien kicks it anyway. He decided not to be the official. You kick and then you wait and see. A lot of pushing and shoving before the ball was snapped, so let's wait and see. Naturally, the clock is not running on a point after. That is Jack Youngblood gesturing to somebody.
Defense offside. Point is good. 5 yards on a kickoff.
Okay. The Vikings were offside. The point is good. It is 14-7 Minnesota. We have 56 seconds left in the game. We take another look at that quick pass from Hayden to Harold Jackson with Bobby Bryant defending.
Well, you almost knew he was going to either throw that or throw it out of bounds to get the clock stopped because he has no timeouts remaining. Harold Jackson just saw the opportunity to go ahead and put it in there for 6.
Next Sunday, January 1st, it'll be Dallas versus the winner of this game, Minnesota or Los Angeles. And the NFL Today will start it all off at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So the Vikings penalized for being offside, so the Rams will kick from the 40-yard line instead of the 35. But, of course, the 5 yards really doesn't mean much because you don't expect Septien to kick at the length of the field. With 56 seconds left, the Rams have to get the ball back. And here comes the Ram onside attempt by Septien. It is fumbled. Now let's see. The crowd thinks that the Rams recovered. We'll wait for the official. Yes, the Rams recovered.
Yes, sir.
Let's take another look.
I don't know whether we're going to be able to see it or not, but let's try from the end zone. Some massive bodies over there. He's mishandled by an up man for the Vikings, and I don't know which one.
At this stage of the game, with so many numbers obscured, it's impossible to pick it off.
Okay, it's mishandled right here. The luck of a bounce, Ben. The luck of a bounce.
We have 53 seconds left to go in the ball game. The Rams have successfully negotiated the onside kick. They are going to towel off the football, and they will put it down on the Minnesota 49-yard line. 1st and 10, and what a finish. Jim Jodat recovered that onside kick. Hayden trying to pull it out and get even in the waning seconds. And he's going to hold it. And gets across the 45-yard line and slipped.
They have no timeouts left.
The Rams without timeouts. They can't stop it. 40 seconds left in the game. And 30-some-odd seconds left to Dallas and counting. Hayden going to throw outside to Harold Jackson. Did he get out of bounds?
Yes, sir.
Yes, he did. The Harold Jackson is just able to get across and stop the clock with 30 seconds left. In the rain in Los Angeles, it is 14-7 Minnesota.
Character time, then. Character time. Who's going to make the big play?
That's just what we're looking at right now. Terry Nelson has been the most successful. Dwight Scales is wide right. Harold Jackson left. The running backs, McCutcheon and Phillips. Hayden trying to set up and dumping it up. No good. It was intended for Terry Nelson. He's the guy to look for. He has caught 6 passes so far, so the chances are they were going to the tight end again.
Doubling those 2 outside receivers and putting the linebackers on him.
Now, no matter where Hayden looks, he's in trouble. 4th down. He's got to negotiate it and keep the ball, but he has only 27 seconds to do it and no timeouts remaining. Hayden to Phillips. He's got a first down, but what are they going to do now on the 30-yard line? 22nd and counting. The Rams trying to get another play under. 15, 10. Hayden going to throw it out of bounds and stop the clock. So with 7 seconds left, Pat Hayden, who has been a winner throughout his career, way back in Bishop Ahmad High School and then at SC. And he's faced with a 1 in a million shot now.
He got time for one pass, period. That's it.
He was able to beat the Oakland Raiders with a dramatic touchdown pass, but under totally different conditions. It is 2nd and 10, but that's not the important thing. The numbers that are important: 14, 7, and 7 seconds. Charles Young, wide right. Harold Jackson, wide left. Nelson, the tight end, on the right side. And here it is for a trip to Dallas. Hayden going for broke in the end zone. Intercepted by Minnesota. The tackle by Charles Young. I want to double check as the gun goes off. Make sure who it is getting up because he is covered. Jeff Wright, number 23. And so the Minnesota Vikings 3 times had beaten the Rams in Minnesota. And they came to Los Angeles in a rainstorm and put it to the Rams in the Coliseum. 14-7. A remarkable performance by the Vikings, who just 2 months ago were walloped by the Rams here 35-3.
Different series when the playoff starts in the regular season.
And a downcast Pat Hayden, who had plenty of time to score a touchdown back in the first quarter and couldn't do it. And finally ran out with another interception, his 3rd, and a do-or-die pass to end the game. Interceptions by Nate Allen, and that was a killer in the end zone. Then by Paul Krause, and the last play of the game by Jeff Wright. So Bud Grant has won his 108th game, and he and the Minnesota Vikings are heading for Dallas in a showdown with the Cowboys.
Know what I put on before shopping? My glasses. I look at labels. For 100% natural, easy-washing denim jeans, I look for
the seal of cotton.
For soft, thirsty towels,
the seal of cotton.
For shirts that are cotton comfortable, plus no ironing,
the seal of cotton.
For sheets that mean sleeping comfort. Whenever comfort matters, I look for the seal of cotton. The more cotton, the better you feel.
With the price of most things going up, the sticker price of Pinto, the best-selling American small car, is coming down. New 78 model Pintos with more standard features will have a lower sticker price than last year's model comparably equipped. Important features are now standard, like AM radio, power front disc brakes, rear window defroster, tinted glass, and protective body side moldings. Ford Pinto, the best-selling American small car. Now more car for the money than last year. At Ford, the better ideas keep coming.
Going into the ball game in the rain in Los Angeles, everyone figured that turnovers would be the key, and we pointed out in the opening remark that Minnesota were a -18 in turnovers, and the Rams were a +12. Well, there were some turnovers today, and all 3 of them went in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. And there is O.J. Simpson going through the crowd, gesturing as he was out here to take a look at it. But it was the Vikings coming up with 3 interceptions and recovering their own fumble. There was one big fumble, that by Robert Miller, recovered by Sammy White, that kept their first touchdown alive. And so there were turnovers, but this time Minnesota came up on top and won at 14-7. Right now, let's go to Brent Musburger.
All right, Vince Scully, thank you very much. And so, Phyllis, we are down to 4. At 2 o'clock next Sunday afternoon, it will be the Denver Broncos hosting the defending champion Oakland Raiders. And our coverage at 5 o'clock from Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. And congratulations to Coach Bud Grant and the Vikings. They always seem to get the job done in the playoffs, don't they, Phyllis?
They certainly do. And I have a question for our expert analyst over here, Irv Cross. Que pasa? What happened to the Los Angeles Rams today?
See, I'm telling you, I'm Joe, Coach Knox
Knox will be looking at that game film a million times to try to find out himself what happened, Phyllis. But when you play the Minnesota Vikings in a playoff game, you have to remember, as you said at the top of the show, they're an opportunistic team. Remember 4th down and 1 in the first quarter where the Rams went for a first down. The Viking defense rose to the occasion and stopped them. Last year in Minnesota, 4th and inches to go on the goal line, Knox went for a field goal. They blocked it and went the other way for a touchdown. So no matter what you do to the Vikings, they seem to come up with a way to win it, and they pick your pockets with a great defense.
You know, Irv, there has been speculation about Chuck Knox because at the end of last season, he almost wound up as the head coach of Detroit. Now, we've got Jimmy the Greek here, and there's been all this talk about George Allen, and now the Rams are out of the playoffs. And Jimmy, how would you call the odds now on a change out there in Los Angeles?
From 100 to 1, it went to even money. I really, no, I mean, Irv doesn't believe it. I still say, as I said 2 weeks ago, George Allen will go to Los Angeles, Chuck Knox will go to Detroit.
You know, Jimmy, that all makes sense to me except one thing, and that is that Carroll Rosenblum is such a strong owner in Los Angeles. Now, George Allen must control everything. He must be the general manager. He wants to be the coach. Would Rosenblum be happy with that situation, or vice versa?
But Mr. Rosenblum spends all the money that anybody wants anyway. All he wants is a winner. There's no problem with any purse strings there.
You know, Jim, I don't know what the inside scoop is on this story, except that Chuck Knox, in 5 years as a Ram head coach, has won the Western Division Championship 5 consecutive times, which is a pretty impressive record. Have won a Super Bowl, but they've won a division each time. I don't know what's going to happen as far as coaching changes are concerned, but, you know, Chuck is a master of tremendous coaching record.
There's no question about it. Nobody, I didn't say that Chuck isn't a good coach. Yeah. I just said that Mr. Rosenblum will not put up with it anymore. This is the end. Okay. He's gone.
Greek, next Sunday could be the end, and it will be the end for either Dallas or Minnesota. How would you analyze that game? Who would you make the favorite right now for the championship of the NFC?
I don't think anybody here doesn't know, or out there that doesn't know who the favorite's going to be. It's a question by how many. Staubach over Lee, you know, I mean, for this quarterback, the speed's about even. You got Waters and Kyle and Barnes against Seaman and Bryan and Wright. I mean, I got to give the edge in the secondary to Dallas. I got to give the defensive front to Dallas with White, Martin, and Jones. I got to give the running game, because if you notice Foreman was hurt. I got to give the running game to Dorsett and Pearson and Newhouse. I got to give the home team, of course, to Dallas, but we're going to give the intangible to Minnesota. Now, you can ask me what the intangible is.
What's the intangible, Greg?
They find a way to get there. I don't know what it is.
Listen, standing by right now in the Los Angeles Coliseum, we have Nick Buoniconti with two of the grand old men of that Minnesota defense, Carl Eller and Alan Page. I understand the picture is not too good out of Los Angeles, but I think everyone wants to hear from those two defensive stars. So let's go live to Nick Buoniconti now. Nick?
When I get it out to the general public, we're going to do it. Hey, want to use it?
You think it'll help? Obviously, Nick Buoniconti was not ready. He's still not sure who he is. Let's go back to Nick now. Nick?
Today's win over the Los Angeles Rams, Alan Page and Jim Marshall. Alan, it seems to me that today you were going after those officials pretty good.
Well, I'd like to say two things. One, and first of all, is that the way our offense played today and the way our defense played together as a team, I'm really proud to be a part of this team. And second of all, in spite of the officials who refused to call holding, Jim's jersey was kind of ripped. Yeah. As you can see, mine has been ripped. They ripped 2 or 3 jerseys off of me, 2 or 3 off of Jim.
Is that why you?
And they wouldn't call a holding penalty.
Is that why you were complaining on the sidelines with Coach Grant?
We complained to the officials, to the coaches, to everybody, and it seems that nobody really cares. Nobody listens. The officials, if they don't want to call it, they're not going to call it, and they didn't want to call it today.
Jim, are you going to play for your 19th year next year?
I certainly hope so. Barring any serious injuries next week, unless I get really crippled, I'm going to be back for my 19th year.
Thank you, Jim. Back to Brent Musburger in New York.
All right, Nick, thank you very much. Lens condensation in Los Angeles because of all the rain, but that kind of added to that Minnesota triumph. Then little eerie look around Carl Eller and Alan Page. And the NFL Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
Sir, what's the hurry? Going to rent a car. Well, you don't have to run. Gotta run. Oh, no, if you had an Avis Wizard number, you could walk. Walk. Call toll-free and let our Wizard system do the running. Just show a major credit card, license, sign, and get the car. I don't have to run through airports? Not with Avis. I can walk through airports.
We try harder, Avis, we don't know another way. I'm walking through airport.
Yeah, Buck.
I just went to another bar and asked for light beer for Miller.
Yeah?
They said, sorry, Buck, we don't have it.
They didn't have it?
No. I don't want some beer's gonna fill me up.
No.
I want light. Tastes great.
Right.
Has a third less calories than a regular beer.
Yeah.
And man, it's less filling. You think I'm going to the other bar again? No way. From now on, the buck stops here.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Earlier today, it was Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys who advanced to the championship. And, Irv, why don't you take a look at the Chicago-Dallas highlights?
All righty, Ben. Of course, that score wound up Dallas 37, Chicago 7. So the Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings to do battle. And Newhouse had a big day for the Cowboys here. He must put 13 yards down to the 6-yard line, setting up a touchdown by Doug Dennison. And here it is right here as Doug goes in off his left guard, and Dallas took a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. Roger Staubach had a pretty good passing day the first half of this ball game. He goes to Drew Pearson here for 32 yards, and later decides to go to his big tight end as Drew Pearson steps out of bounds here, and he goes to Billy Joe Dupree, a 28-yard touchdown, his touchdown pass of the day, and Dallas took a 14-0 lead. Staubach was 8 for 13 for 134 yards and 1 touchdown for the whole day. Staubach here again going to Newhouse, who not only ran the ball well, but also ran his screen pass here very well, too, as he goes along his right sideline down to the Chicago 8-yard line. Efren Herrera kicked a field goal from there, and Tony Dorsett on the ground goes in from the 22-yard line. Dallas 24, Chicago nothing. The Cowboy defense put an awful lot of pressure on Avellini all day. Here's a blitz. Avellini's hit, and he fumbles the ball, and it's recovered down on the 11-yard line, which led to a 31-yard field goal, and Dallas took a 27-0 lead. Avellini trying to get out of the hole here, hits Greg Latta, has the ball. When Latta's hit, watch what happens. He coughs up the football, and Dede Lewis recovers it, takes it down to the 8-yard line, and Dallas does the rest from there with Tony Dorsett going in from the 8. Another touchdown, and you'll see it right here, and Dallas takes a 34-0 lead. Charlie Waters intercepted 2 passes today, Brent, and actually 3 passes in this ball game, which sets an all-time record, ties the record for a postseason play. Here, the receiver falls down, Waters picks it off and takes the ball down to the 40-yard line. Efren Herrera kicked a 28-yard field goal after that series of plays was set up. But the Bears did not give up. Trailing 37-0, Bob Avellini goes for broke, hits Steve Schubert. They get on the board, that it ended there. Dallas 37, Chicago 7.
And you know, Phyllis, what an excellent coaching job. Reeves, Stotner, Ditka, Myers, and of course the head man, Tom Landry. The Cowboys are ready to play today.
What a marvelous man as well as coach Tom Landry is. He's been the only coach in the Dallas Cowboys organization, and they've had him since 1960. Today, his team advanced to the NFC Championship. Congratulations to the Cowboys once again with the 37-7 victory of the Chicago Bears. CBS Sports was there to talk with him, Tom Landry, after the game.
I'm really happy today because, Tom, your team played so well both offensively and defensively.
Paul, we played the best game I guess we played all year. We were really up for the ball game, and our offense moved crisp. Our defense did everything they had to do, and even our special teams played extremely well.
You know, you've been talking about potential now for about 6 or 7 weeks and reading about the quotes. I don't know about potential. This team has already reached its peak.
Well, it showed its potential today, and it hasn't always done that every week, but it did today, and it was a great tribute to them because they were ready to play, and the Bears are to be congratulated. They brought a team in here, and they came a long way to get here, and as you said on the sideline, when you see Walter Payton running through 3 or 4 people, you know how tough a job it was defensive stuff. He never quits. A great tribute to that player. He's a fine runner.
You know, I'm glad you said that, Tom, because I have a sneaking suspicion that the Bears are going to be in the playoffs the next couple of years.
I'm afraid so. As long as they got Walter Payton, they're going to be around.
Well, let's look ahead a little bit, Tom. Of course, I know you're going to be interested in the TV game coming up on CBS out on the West Coast. Do you prefer maybe the Minnesota Vikings coming down here, or maybe the Rams? Who would you like to see come down here?
I don't really have a preference, Paul.
I knew you'd say that.
I think the Vikings are much stronger than people think they are. They played very good at Detroit. When you lose your first quarterback and then they come back and play the way they did against Detroit to get in this thing, they're tough, and they're going to be...
How perceptive Tom Landry was. And, of course, now it will be Minnesota and Dallas. And, again, the first game next Sunday is going to be Denver and Oakland. So let's get a pick from everyone, see if we can pin folks down. Let's start with Phyllis. How about Denver and Oakland, AFC?
I'm gonna I don't know if it's a long shot, but I'm gonna go with Denver. All right, all the way. I've got Denver.
Now,
okay.
you've got Dallas and Minnesota, Phyllis.
Is there any question there? Dallas, Denver. I'd love to see Morton play against Staubach. I think it'd be terrific.
Now, Irv Cross, you've been jumping away from me all year. Now we are down to 4, and I'm not letting you off the hook, big guy. In the AFC, Denver and Oakland. Phyllis went for Denver.
I like Oakland because they've been in championship play before. The defending world champions, and I think they're going to fight like crazy before they get knocked out of the picture.
Dallas and Minnesota.
Dallas is home, so I'm going to take them.
Jimmy the Greek, have you got any further great thoughts for us on those two games?
Well, you know, we made Oakland the favorite and Dallas a strong touchdown favorite over Minnesota, so consequently it's Dallas and Oakland.
Gee, we've run out of time. I haven't got time to say what...
No, hold it, folks. Brent, you tell us right now before we sign off.
I'm out of time. They're telling me
fair.
for Jimmy the Greek, Irv Cross, and lovely Phyllis George. I'm Brent Musburger, and we certainly hope that you have enjoyed the NFL Today on CBS. See you next Sunday from Dallas, 5 o'clock. CBS, it'll be Dallas and Minnesota. Good evening, everyone.
You really do.
The NFL Today is a presentation of CBS Sports.
From CBS News, this is Newsbreak. The Ismailia summit ends with wide gaps still between Egypt and Israel. President Sadat and Prime Minister Begin remain optimistic, but Israeli Foreign Minister Moshe Dayan says he is very worried. Postmaster General Benjamin Baylar says he doesn't want to propose $2 billion additional mail subsidy. It would be unfair to the taxpayers, he says, because most mail is sent by business. A Senate committee has overwhelmingly recommended that the Transportation Department take over the Army Corps of Engineers' traditional jurisdiction over so-called pork barrel water projects. It will be the Dallas Cowboys against the Minnesota Vikings for the National Football Conference Championship. The Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams lost today.
This remarkable scientific medicine helps relieve most cold symptoms caused by every known virus. Every known virus. It's Contact.
I'm Stephanie Shelton, CBS News. More news later on this CBS station.
This is CBS.